BBC News at 7 o'clock. This is James Kelly. A senior Metropolitan Police officer has been jailed for 3 years for secretly filming more than 31 women. Detective Inspector Neil Corbell posed as a photographer to lure his victims to fake photo shoots. He admitted 19 counts of voyeurism. The former Inspector of Constabulary, Zoe Billingham, who has written a report on how police can tackle violence against women, said the case raised wider issues.
It's a dismal story. It's awful for the victims, but it's really also, again, calling into question issues in policing as to whether or not the right people are being appointed into policing and whether or not police forces up and down the country have got the right measures in place to guard against this happening.
Tributes have been paid to the US singer Meat Loaf, who's died at the age of 74. His album, Bat Out of Hell, is one of the most successful in history. In an interview with Steve Wright in 2016, Meat Loaf said he enjoyed becoming the characters from his songs.
I see myself as a regular person who just becomes Meat Loaf, but you're talking to Meat Loaf. I'm giving you everything I got.
Yeah.
But I'm an actor. But I'm not acting now. I didn't create a character to come here and talk to you, but I create characters for everything that I sing.
A British man has been shot dead while lying in bed in a block of flats in the American state of Georgia. 31-year-old Matt Wilson from Surrey was visiting his girlfriend. Police say he was hit by a stray bullet from a neighbouring property. A man has been charged with murdering an 86-year-old woman and attempting to murder her husband. Frida Walker was found dead in her house near Bolsover in Derbyshire last weekend. 88-year-old Kenneth Walker remains in hospital. Fazile Kulia will appear before magistrates tomorrow. There's been no breakthrough at crisis talks between the US and Russia to defuse the threat of war in Ukraine, but both sides say they'll keep talking. With Russian forces massed on the border, the Americans have again threatened a swift and severe response if Moscow invades its neighbour. The authorities in Hong Kong have warned animal lovers not to obstruct a cull of thousands of pets. Officials hope the move will stop the spread of COVID. Michael Bristow reports.
Hong Kong's government ordered the culling of hundreds of hamsters, as well as rabbits, chinchillas and guinea pigs, after several tested positive for COVID at a pet shop. An official explained why this had to be done.
The hamsters already get infected. They're excreting the viruses, and they can infect other animals, and also they can infect human beings.
Some animal lovers have stationed themselves outside hamster handover centres, trying to persuade owners not to follow the government decree. Other volunteers have offered to provide homes for any abandoned and unwanted creatures.
And that's the BBC News. It's 3 minutes past 7.
Box set your evening with BBC iPlayer.
I know from experience the joy that can come from sorting your life out. I love to declutter.
Coffee machine?
Get rid of you before I get rid of that.
Sort your life out with Stacey Solomon. Watch all episodes now on BBC iPlayer.
5 Live Sports.
The Friday Football Social.
Welcome to the programme. A huge game at the bottom of the Premier League tonight. Full commentary on the way of Watford against Norwich. Former Premier League striker Glenn Murray is with me tonight. We'll be looking ahead to the weekend together. Big Dunk's first test at the Everton helm is the arrival of Aston Villa, who are recruiting well. We'll get stuck into that one. Former Manchester United boss David Moyes takes West Ham to Old Trafford. It's 10 games now for Ranieri, Glenn, but has anything really changed?
Well, I mean, results have changed a little bit. There's been a slight upturn in form, but I think that's down to the teams that they've been up against. I mean, togetherness doesn't seem much better than what it did under Ollie, unfortunately.
Then on Sunday, it's Chelsea versus Tottenham. What's gone wrong for Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea?
Fullbacks, Fletch, I think that's the main story there. Both fullbacks out injured. The ones that replaced them just don't give them the same going forward or going back. It's a big problem, and it means that the centre-backs can't press like we've seen them pressing under Tuchel last year.
Loads to get into tonight. We want you to get involved as well. It's at 5 Live Sport on social media, 85058 on the text, or you can leave us a voice note on WhatsApp. And to do that, you dial 08085 909 693.
5 Live Sport.
The Friday Football Social.
Darren Fletcher.
Good evening, welcome to the programme, the Friday Football Social until 10 o'clock tonight. Then Stephen Nolan takes over on BBC Radio 5 Live. This is the way that it's going to work tonight. We're going to be previewing the weekend for the next hour. The former Brighton and Crystal Palace striker Glenn Murray is with me tonight. Glenn, how are you? I can't hear Glenn. Maybe there's an issue that I can't hear Glenn, but he's with me all the same, and we'll be chatting to Glenn during the first hour and all the way through the programme tonight. The former Chelsea winger Karen Carney is at Vicarage Road tonight as part of the commentary team. It's a huge game at the bottom of the Premier League tonight. Watford against Norwich. Let's start off by getting the team news tonight from Jonathan Pearce. Evening, JP.
Evening, Fletch. Evening, everyone. Watford make 4 changes from the resolute draw at Newcastle. Daniel Bachmann is in goal with Ben Foster missing from the squad. Kucka for Mania returns for Ngakoue, goes to the bench at right back. Christian Kabasele makes his first appearance in October in place of Craig Cathcart, who's also not in the squad. And Tom Cleverley replaces Kucka in midfield. Home debuts then for the new signings Samir, Kamara and Kayembe, who made a real difference up at St James's Park for them. 1 change for Norwich. It's not helpful, it's enforced. Keeper Tim Krul has a shoulder injury. Angus Gunn, 26 tomorrow, makes his 5th appearance since rejoining the club in the summer. Kenny McLean is available after COVID, but he's only on the bench.
Thank you, Jonathan. Karen Carney alongside Jonathan. Evening, Karen.
Evening, you all right?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. So this is 17th against 18th. I was just looking, they've got 27 defeats between them this season. I just wonder how impacted Norwich are going to be, though, by that win against Everton and what they can do from this point on.
Well, you already heard him saying, the manager, that Dean Smith, how bouncy the training ground is, of the momentum, and that is 2 out of 3 in all comps that they've won now. But going to this, can they get back-to-back Premier League wins, as you said? But the confidence will be high. Some people are saying, well, it was against Everton and they were really, really poor, but you still got to go out and find a way to win, and Norwich did that, and they'll come here, like I said, thinking massive game. They know it, but probably they're the ones that have got a bit more momentum and a bit more of a spring in their step.
If you could have momentum when you're in the position that these two find themselves in, you would say it's with Norwich after the win against Everton last time out. 6 defeats and a draw for Watford in the last 7 Premier League matches for them. Now, we're going to build up to this one from about 7:45, so we're going to talk about the implications of the match, how it's going to affect the sides at the bottom, the teams that have potentially got games in hand, and what the future might look like for the 2 teams meeting tonight. Then full commentary from 8 o'clock, Jonathan and Karen at Vicarage Road for Watford against Norwich. But we've got loads to get stuck into. Let's just check we've reconnected with Glenn, who I'm told was fiddling about, and it was his fault, not mine. Evening, Glenn, how are you?
I didn't realise it was 7 o'clock start, Fletch.
Well, at least you're with us now, and we can enjoy it for the next hour until we hand over to the team at Vicarage Road. So lots to get on with, as I say. We're going to chat Ranieri's record, the games in hand, all that kind of thing a little bit later on. But let's look ahead first and foremost to the weekend games, and we're going to start off with the Saturday lunchtime kickoff, 12:30, Everton against Aston Villa at Goodison Park. Life after Rafa begins now. Duncan Ferguson back in charge, Glenn, but there are so many different layers to this one. Steven Gerrard back at Goodison Park for the first time as a manager. Felipe Coutinho in the Aston Villa squad. Luca Dean back at Goodison 9 days after leaving Everton. He was one of Everton's biggest assets until he left for Villa Park. And then, of course, you get Duncan Ferguson, John Ebrell, Leighton Baines, the caretaker interim management group, whatever you want to call them. I mean, whichever way you look at this, you can find an angle. But what a big day this is for Everton.
Huge day for Everton. And, you know, I do feel sorry for them, Fletch. The investment has been there. That team that they've got at their disposal will cost them a lot of money. Whether it's worth it, I mean, that's up for discussion. But there just seems to be a lack of direction at the club and no clear philosophy. And I think this next appointment of a manager is really, really crucial for Everton Football Club.
Karen, it's proof, isn't it, that you can't just spend money and then success automatically follows. I mean, if anything now, Everton are worse right now than they were before Farhad Moshiri came in and started spending money. They're going through managers at a rapid rate of knots, and then they get themselves back to Duncan Ferguson again, who I suppose, if he's going to bring anything to proceedings tomorrow and however long he's in charge of Everton in a caretaker capacity, he cares about the place, he knows the club, he's got a connection with the fans, and that must count for something.
Yeah, and that's what they need to do. They need to get a connection back with the fans. They're clearly angry and frustrated, and rightly so. They've spent, 500 million plus maybe on players, and spent on players that probably have more value than what they're worth, and the performances haven't been great. Like you said, they've gone through managers, so all this is like an infrastructure issue. We haven't spoke about on-pitch performance once. That will come after, obviously, but the structure of the football club is clearly ran, and whoever's giving him the advice to go and buy these players or do this, he's just going with it. And there needs to be some proper structure at Everton Football Club that can filter down. And then you're right, get the right manager. And they've gone back to Duncan Ferguson. And like I said, you have to have a connection with the fans. You have to. And I think this is the right thing to get him back in. Straight away, I'm already enjoying his interviews because I see the passion. He knows what it means. He's already reaching out to the fans, trying to make it a fortress back there again. I think it's the right move for the time being. But this next manager, they've got to think smart. But not only the manager, they've got to get the infrastructure above and around that manager to give them the right platform to succeed, because it's just going round and round and round. And actually, it's not going round and round, it's going down and down and down. So it's frustrating if you're an Everton fan, so they need to get it right.
I think on that, I mean, I commentated on Duncan Ferguson's first game in charge last time. It was November 2019. It was Chelsea at home. The situation was pretty bleak then, and Chelsea came in as favourites to win the match. But straight away, the minute he walked out with the Everton team, it felt like a flick had been switched inside Goodison Park, and it felt different. The players reacted to that, got a win, had a little mini run, and then they went on from there. How much of an impact is it going to have, do you think, Karen, on the players tomorrow? Goodison Park feeling the way it's going to feel?
Oh, any player that wants to go out there when the place is lively and buzzing, and also you've got Duncan Ferguson doing your team talk, you were going to run. I think that the pictures already coming out the training ground was them running. And I think that's what he's saying. You've got to run, represent this badge, represent the fans. As if a fan was wearing that jersey on the pitch, you've got to run and represent them. And straight away, you were already like, I was like, right, get your boots on, good to go. And that's what it should be. That's what he's trying to get back, that buzz, that energy. And also that will give you an extra point, an extra player on the pitch at times. And that's what that's been lacking. He's been there, but they've got to get that fan affiliation back and that player association back with them. And it was such a difficult place when, I think, under Moyes, and they had that. Can they get back to that type of era?
Glenn, how do you think they should go about this? Because already Everton are being linked with numerous names. Wayne Rooney, of course, for obvious reasons. Frank Lampard, for obvious reasons. Other people as well. There seems to be, not a rush, but they seem to want to try and get on with this and speak to people and get a manager in. Would it not be more sensible just to see how this plays out for a few matches under Duncan Ferguson? Because the reality is, they're not that far away from the relegation zone, but they're not that far away if they've got a decent run from being safe as well. The only prerogative this season now has to be staying in the Premier League and putting themselves in a position to build. Why would you rush a managerial appointment? Surely you give the fella that's in charge now an opportunity to do it for a little while if he gets a couple of early results.
I agree with that, Fletch. I think Big Dunk should get the job to the end of the season. He'll bring an immediate bounce, not only to the players but to the supporters, which we know is huge on Goodison Park, and it'll give them a little bit of time just to get their house in order. Listen, we talked about the manager leaving. That's obviously the main headline, but they haven't even got a director of football. Michael Brand's left at the end of 2021. And he's the director of football that sort of orchestrates everything behind the manager. He's the manager's right hand, sort of in the transfer market, strategy of players, philosophy of the football club. I mean, they need to build there first for me. Bring a director of football in who understands what manager and what direction the football club wants to go in, and then go after your manager. Dunk will do the job until the end of the season, definitely. And listen, he might be the man to take them on, depending on how well the end of this season's going. But he will definitely bring an instant bounce to the football club, which is exactly what Everton need right now, like you say, to stay in the Premier League and just to pull away from what's becoming a sticky situation.
What do you think he'll do different in terms of team selection, Karen? It was a 4-4-2 pretty much at Norwich last week, two wide players, Rondon and Calvert-Lewin up front. I mean, it was 4-3-3 under Ancelotti, and they seemed a little bit more balanced that way. You'd expect Richarlison to start tomorrow, which is going to be big for Duncan Ferguson. Dominic Calvert-Lewin getting back to speed after being out for a period of time as well. When you look at what he could potentially do, how do you think he'll change it based on what you've seen from them so far?
Again, player availability, but when I watched them the other week, and a lot of Everton fans have always said this, I know a few of them, it's always about their midfield. So I always feel really worried if they play two in there, because I just think they'll get overran, and sometimes I don't think they've got the legs in there. So I think maybe going to a 3, it depends, like I said, player availability, but the big one is getting Richarlison back. If we can start firing up with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, they could do a 4-4-2 and get crosses into the box and give him the service, but again, I always worry about them being overrun in midfield, and that's my biggest concern. And I thought that's where the goals against Norwich, they were just sloppy in midfield, and then the transitions were just too much. So, you know, what they need to do is they need to do what Spurs have done and run. Just get involved, put passion out there and put some tackles in, get the fans behind them, but don't get overrun in that midfield area.
When you look at them, Glenn, I mean, it's an obvious question that has to be asked. I mean, how concerned are you for them? Because they could end the weekend 3 points above the relegation zone. I mean, this is an Everton team that have got well and truly sucked into it. And it's not always a formality just to get a couple of wins and get away from it.
No, it's not, and obviously that's why the Premier League is what it is. That's the nature of the beast, and if you have a month or two off, I mean, you do find yourself in these sticky situations. For me, when I think about it, I'm not too worried about Everton. I think if they get a manager that they want to play for, and if you get those 25 players at Everton Football Club pulling in one direction, they've got enough talent and ability to get them out of the situation they're in. Listen, I think they've been very unlucky with injuries. Decore started the season on fire. They lost him, and he has got legs in midfield. He hits the box late, he gets goals.
Yeah.
He also does his defensive work. But also, I mean, when you're a team like Everton and you lose your main man in Dominic Calvert-Lewin, your main source of goals, it's inevitably going to hurt you. And to get him up to speed and running, and I actually expect to see Duncan Ferguson play to his strengths tomorrow. I expect to see plenty of balls into the box, trying to feed that young man Dominic Calvert-Lewin to get back on the score sheet, get back to where we know he can get, and that will ultimately get Everton out of the situation they're in.
Yeah, I think when you put it into perspective, the Dominic Calvert-Lewin situation, 3 goals this season, 2 of them penalties, just the one in open play, and I think it's August the 28th, the last time he scored for Everton, which is purely injury related, but it just shows when you take out the player that scored 16 in the Premier League and 21 in total last season in a team like that, it leaves a mark, and having him back and firing and scoring goals is going to make a massive difference.
Yeah, huge difference, Fletch. I mean, and that can go down to a lot of clubs as well. I mean, I look up at Newcastle, look at Callum Wilson. If they can keep him fit, they've got a chance. If he's not fit, then I worry for them. I mean, it goes up and down. Even Neil Maupay at Brighton, they need his goals. And when you're that team sort of outside the top 6 that rely on one man for goals, I mean, they are the hardest thing to come by in football, and especially in the Premier League. And if you lose that guy, then things can get sticky.
Karen, if we look at this from the other side of it, and I know with your affiliation to Birmingham, this is always a difficult one for you, but we're going to praise Aston Villa to the hilt for the next few minutes or so kind of grab hold of the seat and just prepare yourself for it as best you can.
I'm going to enjoy this, Fletch.
If Everton are looking for an example of how you can get better and how you can recruit well, they would look no further than Aston Villa, who are enjoying their 3rd season in the Premier League now. They stayed up first time, they were better last season. Now they've spent a bit of money on players who seem like they're going to be able to take them forward. There does seem to be no plan at Everton, and a very distinct, clear plan with what Aston Villa want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. Everything you've said is just off the pitch stuff, giving them the structure to succeed. If you don't have strong foundations, you're always going to crumble, and that's the difference. And credit to Villa, they've got a really good academy, they've got a really good infrastructure, the board, the direction in football in which they're going. But their biggest recruitment was Gerrard. I love Dean Smith, don't get me wrong, I thought he was brilliant, and managers come in for certain periods at football clubs and transition. Now they're in a new transition, they get Gerrard in, and he's just been a breath of fresh air. Every interview he's done, how he's handled the media, how he conducts himself on the side, how he's coming with that winning mentality, and I'm like, it's so impressive. It really, really is. And then because of his credibility, and just because you've been a top player doesn't mean you'll be a top manager. it does give you a bit of help when you go into dressing rooms, granted, because you have that respect, but you can easily lose respect very quickly. But I think he's gone in there and straight away he's got the dressing room, he's got the team, and then he's been able to recruit as well because of who he is. You know, come on, Coutinho, come back. We'll put an arm around you. We'll give you a bit of love. We know how good you are, and we're going to give you the platform to be the player that you was, and we believe that you can be. And you can do that. Get a young Jacob Ramsey. You've come into it. You've had your chance, but we're going to make you even better. And I've just been so impressed with them and how tactically good they've been as well. He's been a credit to them so far, and that's really hard for me to say, Fletch. Really
you
hard.
did it really well. I mean, you said it with feeling as well, which was fantastic. I'm proud of you.
I know, gutted.
We'll talk about Jacob Ramsey in a minute, because I want to chat to you both about him. But I mean, it's January's go, Glenn. This has been an excellent January already for Aston Villa and Steven Gerrard. Luca Dean, Felipe Coutinho, 2 players who are going to make the starting 11 better. He's got a backup goalkeeper now in Robin Olsen, so he's got some experience behind Emi Martinez. Away from the acquisitions, they've given new contracts to Ezri Konsa and Emi Martinez, the goalkeeper. And he's also said as well that there is a possibility, but they're prepared to be patient if they need to be, that something else could happen between now and the end of the window. I mean, they're very focused on what they want to do, and it seems as though they're hitting all of the targets, but I can't help thinking that getting those key players on long-term contracts at the same time is as important as what they're doing in terms of bringing people in.
Do you know what? They are the exact opposite, the polar opposite of Everton at the moment. And hats off to their hierarchy, because not only have they made decisions, they've made brave decisions. And luckily for those at the minute, every single one of them seems to be paying off. And that started with selling Jack Grealish last summer, and the way they invested that money in Ings and Buendia and Bailey. And then obviously they're not content at that. They've had a good season. They want to progress again. Gerrard coming in, I mean, people questioned him coming in. What a fantastic appointment he's been. And not only that, you see sort of the first team, all things aligning in the first team, and it all seems very rosy. But don't take away from the fact that they won the FA Youth Cup in 2021, and we can see those boys coming in there, getting blooded in Ramsey, like you've just touched on there. Chukwuemeka, I mean, he's gone out on loan. Cameron Archer's going to go out on loan. Bidance is going to go out on loan. But there's a production line at Villa, and it's quite an exciting club to be at the minute, and that's without even mentioning Coutinho and the likes coming in January. And I mean, just the power that Steven Gerrard's got to be able to pick up the phone and for footballers to listen, because with all due respect, I don't think the ex-manager could have done that.
I mean, you mentioned Jacob Ramsey there, Karen. I know that Steven Gerrard holds him in extremely high regard. He looks like a midfielder who has got the opportunity to go to a very high level. I mean, they're already talking about potential call-ups for international fixtures and all that kind of thing. I mean, he looks like he's got pretty much everything. He's only 20, but he looks so comfortable in a Premier League midfield already, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He can get it off the back line and just move it, shift it into the next, into higher positions. He can pick it up, he can drive with it. It looks physically good for his age. He can move around the pitch. We can see he can get a goal. He's not one of these, I'm a 4, I'm an 8, I'm a 10. He's an all-round midfielder. He can do it all. And I like that they haven't tried to make him a specific midfielder. They've gone, go on, you can do it all, and we're going to let you go and do it all, and we'll all rotate in that. And that's something Gerrard's brought in, is that midfield. He's made the distances really compact, and I think he's really helped in that situation. But he's a really talented kid, and I think with Gerrard as well, playing in that position, Coutinho coming in, they'll just guide him and nurture him. And you can see him keep building, but he's gone from strength to strength, because Dean Smith put him in there. He had the potential. And I just think now it's about getting to the next level, and you can't have anyone better than Steven Gerrard being your manager in that position, telling you what you need to do. I mean, it's a dream for any young kid, and being at your home club as well, coming through the academy, it's just brilliant.
He must be riding on the crest of a wave, and the confidence, and we can see the confidence every Saturday afternoon coming from him, and like Karen says there, to be able to bounce off Gerrard, and when you've grown up watching a manager dominate the Premier League, and now he's chatting to you like he's a pal of yours. I mean, it must just be such a surreal place for the young man to be in. And like we say there, he's from Villa, he's a Villa fan. It's like it's the stuff of dreams. And do you know what? He probably won't realise it right now, but in 10 years he'll be like, oh my goodness, that right there was amazing, and it's setting him off on the right path to what looks like it could be a really exciting, productive career.
And last one on this before we move it on to Manchester United against West Ham, Karen. You touched on Coutinho, and I think Glenn mentioned that he didn't think that the previous regime would have been able to get him in. I mean, he's there now. Now it's a case of what are Aston Villa going to get from him. He's only 29. He came off the bench against Manchester United and was involved in the the goal that got them back to 2-1. Then scored the equaliser from close range, where Stephen quite rightly mentioned his bravery, because he was always going to clatter into the post. How important is that relationship going to be between Gerrard and Coutinho to make sure that they get an authentic Felipe Coutinho at Villa Park?
Oh, it's going to be key, and I agree with Glenn. It's probably the only reason why he went there, that relationship, because Gerrard will know what made him tick in that dressing room. Because when you've been in there and you know a player, when you're a player to player, you're still kind of managing them because you still need them to get the best for you to get the result, and that doesn't really change as a manager. You still got to know your player, and if Gerrard was captain, he'd go, how do I get the best out of him, or how do I know him, or all those players. You still have to know those little player management situations, even if you're not the manager. Now he is the manager, he's already got an advantage over everyone, and he's in a good position as well, because you're not a bad player overnight. The only issue with Coutinho is he just clearly went to a place where they couldn't get the best out of him, wasn't happy and hasn't played, so he's not match fit. So actually, if you get him fit, he's actually fresh, hungry, in an environment that they want you to succeed, a manager that knows you, that probably loves you and knows how good you are. It's the ideal situation, and he's going in there thinking this is what it's all about. And don't forget, Liverpool never ever wanted to let him go. Klopp was like, stay here, we'll get a statue with you, you're going to be a legend. So he was always, he's not lost it whatsoever. He's just gone to an environment that just didn't suit him, and that happens.
The fourth most expensive footballer of all time, and he's going to play for Aston Villa at Everton tomorrow. 16th against 13th in the Premier League. Kicks off at 12:30. The gap feels wider than that between the two teams. Aston Villa haven't lost to Everton since being promoted back to the Premier League. You're listening to the Friday Football Social. Darren Fletcher, Glenn Murray, Karen Carney, Jonathan Pearce alongside Karen at Vicarage Road for the commentary match from 8 o'clock tonight. Watford against Norwich. A 6-pointer in every sense of the word in the Premier League. We'll start building up to that game in a few minutes' time. It's quite surreal at the moment, Glenn, because we've got Karen on Zoom, but we can only see Karen's eyes. So the iPad is tilted to the point where we can't see her mouth. So everything that Karen says is being said through her eyes. I've never actually seen anybody communicate like that.
I'm trying to adjust it. It's probably you don't want to see me, trust me.
I did say earlier to Katie, the producer, I said we'd like to see Karen when she's up the ground, and Jonathan, just see how cold they actually are on nights like this, because we're sat inside. You don't look too bad tonight, I've got to say. You're not quite as wrapped up as you have been.
I've got my hot water bottle and my hot blanket, so I'm set, but JP looks a bit cold, to be fair to him. You all right, JP? Yeah.
I'm fine. I've got enough flesh around me to keep me warm. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, if JP was a plant, he'd be known as a hardy perennial, so he's okay. Or is that a tree? I'm not sure. Anyway, let's move it on. David Moyes is back at Old Trafford with a West Ham side that are above Manchester United in the league at the moment. United lost their last home match against Wolves. Commentary of this one on 5 Live Sport from 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, plus all the goals first and fastest as they go in around the country with Ian Dennis. It's Ralph Ranieri's 10th game in charge, 5 wins up to now. West Ham the first top 4 team that he's faced as the Manchester United interim manager. I was at Brentford, Glenn, on Tuesday night, and for 45 minutes they were completely played off the park by Brentford. A lot better in the second half. Bruno Fernandes was more of a factor. But you kind of look at it, and if you put it into a real situation, he's had virtually a quarter of a season now, but it doesn't look a great deal different, does it, for Manchester United?
No, we heard a lot of talk about 4-2-2-2 and things like that when he came in, and how he was going to install a new philosophy. And listen, I understand that takes time, and it is going to take a little bit more time, but it must be difficult from a player's point of view when he's trying to stamp his authority and his tactics on the squad, and they know he's not going to be their manager come the end of the season, and they're going to probably have to go through all this again, maybe. Whether he's going to have a good hand in who comes in after him when he does move upstairs, I mean, that's yet to be decided. I think the teams that Manchester United have played and sort of the form they've shown has flattered to deceive a little bit. It's not it's not been fluid. It's not been enjoyable. I mean, even the players don't look like they're gelling very well or having much fun out there. And there's still a lot to come from this Manchester United side. Whether we see it this season, I'm not too sure. It's a funny one right now, Manchester United. It's going to be extremely interesting to see how this one plays out, because it's just not been good enough really from that point of view. You mentioned the other night there, Fletch, for 45 minutes that they were poor. Luckily their talent got them through, which will against a lot of teams, but when these when the top 6 teams come round and the top 4 teams come round, it'll be really interesting to see how they fare against those teams that they should really be up against and fighting for the title for.
You know, I remember saying on Wednesday night, Karen, when the teams came out for the second half, because it really was Brentford's half, and had it not been for David De Gea, there might have been 1 or even 2-0 down when the second half started, Manchester United. But you just didn't see smiles on faces. You didn't see that enthusiasm within the group to do the kind of things that we thought they were going to do under Ranieri, the kind of things that we expect a team of that talent to do. The smiles started to appear second half when they started scoring goals, and the body language was a lot better. But it just seemed to take them a long time to get to that point. They seemed quite flat to start off with. Brentford seemed to be able to cope with everything they did relatively easily and seemed to enjoy the challenge. And I looked at the two of them. I looked at the coach on the sideline, Thomas Frank, who never stopped moving. Ranieri was impassive and pretty unemotional. The team seemed to mirror Ranieri, yet the team of Brentford seemed to mirror Thomas Frank. It just seemed to be off. It just didn't look right. You know, when you do the eye test sometimes, it just doesn't look right, and it didn't look right.
No, you're spot on, and I think sometimes your application replicates your manager's mood. I know that as myself as a player, look back at my career and like the manager was hyped, then that really went onto the pitch, so maybe that's a factor. I think you also alluded to that. For me, I watch Man United, they're a bunch of brilliant individuals. I don't see them collaborative as a team, and I think they're probably only smart because they're winning, and they only win those moments because of individual brilliance. Maybe the final goal where the 3 centre forwards all interlinked, that was a good goal, but I don't think they play like a team. I don't think you see, they're just too individual, and I think that's where sometimes it doesn't look good. No matter what you are, and if you want to be part of a team, you want to see movements, you want to be all together. I don't quite see that with United yet, and maybe that's the guidance, and maybe Glenn's right that how can you get that when you know the manager's not going to be there for that long, or you don't know the future of where you're going. But it's not all rosy, and it doesn't look good, it doesn't feel good, and it's not enjoyable to watch, is it?
No, and that's just on the outside, isn't it, Karen? Can you imagine what it's like inside if they're sort of reflecting that on the pitch every time we watch them? And we mentioned there sort of not only the players' body language but the manager as well. I mean, there's different personalities to be managers, but when I look at the successful managers at the moment in the Premier League, and I look at Tuchel, Pep and Klopp, they're all really animated, they're very involved with their players. I mean, it's almost like they're on the pitch playing the game sometimes, whereas Rangnick's very, very sort of withdrawn almost, and it can't help him, in all fairness, when he makes a decision. He brings Ronaldo off, and Ronaldo sits on the steps and mutters and moans, and I mean, you've got to swallow it. But this was something that I was worried about for Manchester United with Ronaldo, because as an older player, it's inevitable you are going to you're going to come to the end at some point. Whether Ronaldo's end is a year, 3, 4, I mean, he's superhuman, isn't he? So it might be like 5 years, who knows? But there's always going to be a point where a manager says you're not playing this week, and it's how you react, and you can't have that reaction looking badly on the football club, looking like you're undermining the manager, because other players will pick up on that, and it's just not a good situation to be in. I didn't think it would happen this year. I thought this year would be fine with Ronaldo. I thought it'd be next year when he turns 38, and the problem would maybe start then. But it wasn't good what I saw at Brentford the other night. It was it was a little bit sour, wasn't it, on the bench? You
know what it is, Glenn, and like this word can have a real like negative impact on it. It's ego, and you mentioned it as a senior player, and we've both been there, that we know that at some point you have to bite the bullet, don't you, in terms of you're not, maybe can't play every game, or actually you're not at the levels or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that's Ronaldo, far from it, I'm not saying that now, but sometimes you might have to take a rest and you kind of... But Man United knew that when they'd signed Ronaldo, that you've got to find someone next to him that's going to be able to manage that and explain that to him. And we saw that then. And to be fair, Ranieri has handled it quite well, I feel like. But Ronaldo made a point to go and sit right next to him. I know, Fletch, you're laughing, but I'm not saying it's... You're going to get one of the best players in the world. At some point, he's going to be unhappy. So you have to manage that situation. By the way, I'm not saying he's done. He's been incredible.
Look, I might be on an island here, but I look at this from the other way. I mean, this is a footballer that's never, ever been a bad teammate. And he's never been a problem for a manager. It wasn't a problem at Manchester United, Real Madrid, Juventus. Hasn't been a problem. Good teammate, approachable, we hear, always ready to help, always ready to offer advice. He's 36. He scored more goals than anybody else in that team, and he probably feels the way that team's playing at the moment that he shouldn't be taken off.
Oh, I'm not saying he's a bad teammate, though, Fletch.
Yeah, but this is the point I want to get onto. I think at the moment, he's almost becoming the target, isn't he? Whenever you see Manchester United being criticised, Ronaldo's at the middle of it all. There's quotes that have appeared today saying that he's not approachable to young players. Said by who? I mean, this is a guy that's always been, and if you speak to people who've played with him, a wonderful person to be around at a football club, helpful, open, ready to step in and help. He perhaps looked at this situation and thinks, if I'm getting taken off in this team, playing like they are, what chance have I got? And he knows his body better than anybody else at 36. He probably feels he works harder than anybody else in there, and he probably feels that he can stay on and do that job.
But that's the management, though. You have to have someone really strong to manage that. So when they signed him...
But you both just said that he's not, that he's the interim manager. He's going to be gone in the summer. So they've created the situation themselves.
Exactly.
But he's not a strong manager, is he? He's got no power whatsoever.
Well, no, he's handled it well in the press conference,
has he?
Well, he's tried to say to Ronaldo the reasons why.
Well,
but
Ronaldo
would that have
might
happened?
not agree.
I don't think any of this would have happened if Alex Ferguson was there. Do you know what I mean? That type of manager.
No,
I think that Ronaldo's standards are probably higher than the rest of that squad for me, and you can see his frustration boiling over this. You've got to think that he's signed back at Manchester United, and he has very, very fond memories of that club. And for him to come back and see the club that he almost helped build to be in the state it's in at the moment, he must be so frustrated, and that's starting to boil over. And listen, you're right, Fletch. There's just headlines about him, negative, positive, it doesn't matter. He's just a headline maker. He can score the last-minute winner, and the papers are full of Ronaldo. But also, if he goes and sits on a step and has a little moan, it's all Ronaldo. But that's what you get when you bring one of the best players in the world back.
I think there needs to be more respect for him. I think some of the stories that have been written since he's been back have been appalling. This is one of the greatest footballers we've ever seen, who, since he's come back to the Premier League and the Champions League, has scored goals for Manchester United. Yet for a start, he's been laid out as the problem, the reason why they can't press, which doesn't seem to carry any water, because when he's not in the team, they still don't press. So I can't see how it's Ronaldo's fault. Nobody else seems to be doing it. And I'm looking at that group of people, and if I'm analysing the Manchester United squad, I can see many, many, many more problems in that team before I get down to him.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, at some point, Ralph Rangnick might have brought him off the other night because he just wants to protect him, because he wants to rest him. I don't think he brought him off because he's playing bad. He was involved in the goals.
Do you think he would have a conversation with him, though, Glenn, before? Because if you're a senior player and one with the standing he has, if your plan is to take him off after an hour, 65 minutes, or when you've got the lead, because he made the point after that they blew a 2-0 lead at the weekend and he wanted to go to a back three to make sure it didn't happen again.
But that's my point, Fletch.
But would you not have a conversation with him first and say, look, you're just back from the hip flexor, you've missed the last couple of matches, probably going to give you an hour, 65 minutes. If we get in front, I'll take you off. Is that not the way to deal with a player like him with his standing? Give him that respect so he knows what the situation is.
Fletch, that's what I was talking about, though. Like, again, I hate to, it's not a negative thing, it's ego, it's managing someone. It's managing them, and I don't think that's been handled. That's what I was trying to say to you before. When you get to, as a senior player, you have to manage them very different. And that's those conversations that you have to have. And obviously it hasn't happened, then you have to have the repercussions, but then it's done in front of all the cameras. No one's saying he's a bad teammate. Before the game he's talking to all the young players. I'm not saying that. I think he's an incredible athlete and paves the way in terms of professionalism. But that in terms of an athletic specimen as well, he's incredible. But you have to manage those seniors, and it's hard to explain when you've been in that position, because you probably do need to come off because you know you've got another game, you need to be rested. It just takes someone just smart, and I don't think it would happen under Sir Alex Ferguson or someone like that would nip it in the bud right before, or manage him so much better maybe that you wouldn't have this circus around him.
It's dysfunctional, isn't it? Whichever way you look at it, it's dysfunctional. It's not conducive to a successful situation. They're kind of feeling the way in the dark and hoping it works its way out.
Yeah, I mean, we're only talking about the manager and the best player at the football club. I mean, what about the structure behind that? There's no... I mean, it's similar to... For me, Manchester United have been stuck in the dark ages for a while. Going, spending money, buying the best players, because the talent they've got it's non-negotiable. It's fantastic. It's just, how do they go about playing games? How do they go about winning games?
Quick one on West Ham, Karen, because it's a fantastic opportunity for them to go to Old Trafford, get a victory, really consolidate the situation that they've got at the moment in the top four. I just feel for David Moyes a little bit at the moment, though, that he's got to keep playing the same team over and over and over again. He's had 1 or 2 injuries. I think he's done wonders to keep them where they are with the amount of games that group of players have had to play. Is the onus here in January not on ownership at West Ham to get him a couple of players, 3 players, decent players, better players that can kick them on in the second half of the season and give him a real chance to get into the top 4? Because I just wonder how long this can carry on unless he gets some reinforcements in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's already been so much put on Antonio. But they knew this going into this window. You know, you think it would be a high priority, giving them support. You're at this position, everyone else is kind of fumbling as well. This is a really good opportunity for them, and like you said, give them the platform, give them the players to really make sure that what happened last year, where they just failed on that last couple of games, doesn't happen this year. And that is about players, that is about adding a few to your squad. So I'm a little bit surprised, and I completely agree. Getting in there, I mean, God forbid anything happened to Rice, they'd fall apart. So, you know, and Bowen as well, he's been sensational. So there is probably an over-reliance on a few players. They need backups big time, or even just a bit of squad rotation just to keep the freshness, to keep going on the opportunity they've got.
I think when you think back to last season, Glenn, and the impact that Jesse Lingard had when they were able to get him in, you know, a bit of genuine quality, an England player that came into the group and gave them that impetus and a kickstart really in the second half of the season that enabled them to finish so well and get European football. That kind of player, or maybe more than one, needs to come in now, doesn't he, just to give them that again?
I think it's only fair to the squad, Fletch, and only fair to David Moyes. I think they've done a fantastic job. Like Karen said, I think this has always been the problem. Whenever anyone's mentioned West Ham, it's sort of, yeah, they're doing really well, but there's an over-reliance on players. Antonio, Bowen, they struggle. Centre-backs, they're missing a few centre-backs. I think they deserve some investment. It's got to be the right person. Obviously, it's easy to link Jesse Lingard back there because he did so well when he was there last year. I expect that Jesse will be keen on going back. When you know you fit someone, you know it's worked somewhere. I always think it's nice to walk into a changing room where you're known. But I mean, it's imperative that they spend this transfer window, because they need it. They need that helping hand to keep up to pace with the big guns. And we look at Tottenham and things, and they're looking to invest to try and catch them. West Ham need a little bit of help.
And you're listening to the Friday Football Social. Darren Fletcher, Karen Carney, Glenn Murray. Full commentary from 8 o'clock, Vicarage Road, for Watford against Norwich. Jonathan Pearce alongside Karen for that one. Karen's enjoying the tunes at Vicarage Road tonight. I can see the head bobbing up and down from time. It's a bit old school there tonight, Karen, isn't it? A bit old school there.
Yeah, there's a few mixes, but that was a nice Ed Sheeran one. Like that one.
Not a bad night out, Vicarage Road on a Friday in the winter. It's all right. You see, they're entertaining you.
Yeah.
So full commentary to come. Karen's a bit less enthusiastic about the tunes than I am. We're also going to keep you up to date tonight with the Scottish Cup, Rangers Stirling Albion, which is just about to get underway, and Connie McLaughlin is watching this one for us.
It is. Rangers have made 8 changes, Darren, to the side that drew 1-1 with Aberdeen on Tuesday. Brandon Barker makes his first appearance in over a year, actually, for the home side. And I'm not sure just how good your SPFL knowledge is, right? But there are 37 places between the two sides. And you know what that means, the potential for a slip-up. And given the fact that Rangers haven't won the Scottish Cup since 2009, the pressure is on at Ibrox tonight. It's Rangers against Stirling Albion.
Thank you, Connie. We'll keep you up to date with that one during the course of the evening. Full commentary in about 16 minutes' time from Vicarage Road down of Watford against Norwich, and we'll start building up to that in a few minutes' time. We're going to talk about Derby at half-time, by the way, and that perilous situation that football club finds itself in. But we're going to speak about Chelsea against Tottenham for the next few minutes. It's a Sunday match, huge game in the race for a top four. Full commentary from 4:30 on 5 Live Premier League Sunday. A few weeks ago, the notion of this match being anything close to a potential battle for the top four would have sounded strange because of the position that Tottenham were in and, of course, the position that Chelsea were in. Let's start with Chelsea, Karen. There's been a lot of focus, and obviously that's going to be the case when you spend £93 million on a centre forward. A lot of focus on Romelu Lukaku and what he either is doing or isn't doing. But I think it's masking a really big problem in this Chelsea side at the moment, and that is the fact that they can't keep clean sheets. And this was a team that went on to the Champions League final last season, built on an extremely resolute defence, built on clean sheets. I think they've kept one clean sheet in their last 10 or 11 Premier League games. Compare that to 8 clean sheets in the first 12. It's a problem for them because they're not prolific, even with Lukaku. And when they are conceding goals at the rate they are, a goal a game pretty much, they're finding it really hard to turn these draws into wins.
Well, they haven't been prolific for the last 2 seasons. Last season, Jorginho was top goal scorer with 7. So then there is an over-reliance on your defence. And this season started off well, but I can't keep thinking about the contract situations. You got Rudiger, still not signed. Azpilicueta, not signed. Yes, I've got Silva signed up now. Christensen, not signed up. So you're thinking, well, straight away that there's 3 massive players, characters as well in the dressing room, and you lose Chilwell. I know Glenn spoke about at the start of the show how important the wing-backs are, Chilwell and Reece James, and well, there's your 5 already kind of either injured or what's their thought process is like, so that can also affect you. And you have had a lot of injuries in midfield as well, and forward line's always been a big issue for me because I always wanted to play with the same players week in and build that continuity, and he chops and changes it all the time, and I still to this day I don't know who his best 3 are. I couldn't tell you. I know he goes horses for courses, but even sometimes I still can't work out why he's done that in that game. So it is really strange, and sometimes I think, well, I don't blame Lukaku. How does he build that if he's changing midfield and forward line all the time? So both 18-yard boxes are a problem for him at the moment.
Are they easy to play against at the minute, Glenn? Because they looked a nightmare for teams at the back end of last season.
Yes, they did. Now, I wouldn't say they're easy to play against. They just lack a little bit of fluidity. I think the fullbacks, like we mentioned earlier, have been a real problem for them. Azpilicueta, he gives you a lot defensively. He doesn't give you as much going forwards as Reece James. I mean, Reece James was top scorer at one point this season. And then on the other side, Chilwell being out, I don't think Alonso gives you much defensive solidarity, which unfortunately for Chelsea pulls... sorry, I forgot his name off the top of my head. He pulls the left centre-back out, and it was all built on that really. Last season it was all built on that 5 at the back, and there were 2 wide centre-backs stepping in aggressively, sometimes up to the halfway line and further, chasing their sort of number 10 in, and that's what their success was built on. But now they can't do that with Alonso being a little bit weaker at left back, Azpilicueta not giving them enough going forward, and then obviously they've had bad injuries. That they're one of the teams that has suffered from poor injuries. Kante, irreplaceable. Kovacic gives them something that no one else can. Yeah, and then only then, after all those problems, we get onto the forward line, and that hasn't hit the height of what we expected it to, let alone Lukaku. Not even the ones that were around last year have sort of found their groove, let's say. So there's a lot of problems going on at Chelsea at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, this might be a bit of an eye-opener to some. Chelsea are 12 points off the top at the moment, 12 points behind Manchester City. Frank Lampard lost his job a year ago this week with Chelsea 11 points off the top. I know they've won a Champions League during that time, but if you look at where they are in the Premier League, it's not really made a blind bit of difference, has it?
No, sorry, the tunes are really banging now, so I couldn't hear you, Darren.
You're enjoying it now. You see, now I've brought your attention. You're thinking, I don't want to do the commentary. I want the tunes to carry on.
Go on, Glenn, take it. This is a tune. You're right. Like, if you look at the points, but from knowing Chelsea is about trophies, and what he's got behind him is the Champions League, and he's got an opportunity again with the World Club football to get one as well. I know they want the Premier League, that's everyone's bread and butter, but I think Chelsea are about winning trophies, and I think despite what's happening at the moment, Thomas Tuchel's got that illustrious Champions League behind him, so it probably gives him a little bit more to go to the ball and go. Look, also the injuries that we've had, and I think he's got a little bit more of a, so what I'm trying to look for, not credibility, but he's got that behind him to give him that chance.
Well, let's have a quick look at Tottenham, because I want to start building up to the game we're going to cover tonight on 5 Live. Watford against Norwich shortly. Still unbeaten in the Premier League under Antonio Conte. Still haven't signed any players for Antonio Conte, which is maybe a concern to him. I asked Karen at the top of the programme, Glenn, about the kind of momentum that Norwich could potentially get from the win against Everton last week, a win that they waited quite a while for. I wonder what the midweek comeback at Leicester will do for this Tottenham team, because, I mean, they're finished at 95 minutes and somehow they get on the bus and go back to London with a win. I mean, I think
it'll probably tie them out with those celebrations. I think it'll probably tie them out with those celebrations, Fletcher. It was a bit special, that, wasn't it? No, momentum. I mean, it gives them momentum going back to the fixture this weekend. Conte has done a fantastic job for me. I think he's made them harder to beat. Still don't think they're hitting their heights that they could do going forward, but he's made them much more resolute. They're playing as a team. I think the future's quite bright for Spurs. It was a very shrewd appointment. There was a lot of noise about him going to Manchester United. They decided against it, and it seems like Tottenham they've made the correct decision, and I expect them to back him this month to really push for top 4.
Are you listening to the Friday Football Social? You can listen to that game at 4:30 on Sunday as part of 5 Live Premier League Sunday. Karen's just had a phone out, Glenn. I'm pretty sure she was booking tickets for the next Friday night at Vicarage Road after the atmosphere she's feeling in there tonight.
Just waiting for Rocket Man now.
I can't even imagine what Pearce looks like in there. He must be boogieing away to himself out of camera shot. Gotta be. Right, let's turn our attention to tonight then, shall we? Commentary to come after the music. Vicarage Road, Watford against Norwich. Huge game at the bottom, and both Claudio Ranieri and Dean Smith know it.
Another crash between two teams who want to stay in Premier League. The reason that I believe in my players, of course, are not only when we won against Everton on United, but also when we lost against Chelsea, City, and also Leicester. We make a very good match. I'm very confident. They are very focused in what we are doing. They train with the heart, with the passion.
We've had 2 games against Aston Villa and Arsenal where our performance levels were nowhere near where we needed to, and understandably the atmosphere was more sombre. You know, sometimes we actually have to raise the atmosphere with our energy levels, our intensity, and I thought we did that. We know there's a small cluster of groups at the moment who are all fighting, you know, to get out of them relegation places, but the most important part is after 38 games, we've got to make sure we're at our best and just concentrate on not the table, but beating the next team in front of us.
Claudio Ranieri and Dean Smith there on 5 Live. So Watford 17th, 19 games played, 14 points. Norwich 18th, just below them, a point worse with 13, but they've played 21. So a couple of games in hand on the team directly below them for Watford. The Claudio Ranieri situation, Glenn, is fascinating. He's been in charge now for 2 months. He's got 2 wins, 9 defeats and 1 draw in 12 matches, 7 points in 12 games. I mean, in normal circumstances, he would have been gone by now. I mean, I'm not quite sure how he's holding on to things at Watford, a club renowned for sacking managers at the first opportunity.
Yeah, with the history Watford possess, I mean, yeah, I'm a little bit surprised as well, especially after Xisco Munoz had such a good start, 7 points in 7 games, and often I've played for teams that the aim is to stay in the Premier League, and when you're hitting that is sort of a general rule of thumb. If you can hit a point a game, 40 points, 38 points, that keeps you in the Premier League. So when they got rid of Munoz, it really surprised me. He took them back to the Premier League. He had the group togetherness. There was a bounce around the football club. 7 games, 7 points. They were on track. Now, I understand when Ranieri comes available, he's a big draw, he's a big name. He's managed at this level before. But I just felt as though they didn't give Munoz enough time, and now we're seeing that. We see 7 points in 12 games, so it's taken him 5 extra games to get those points. Plus, 3 of those points was against a misfire in Manchester United that ultimately got Ollie the sack. So I do worry for Watford, and tonight is a really, really big game. I mean, I thought he'd be a little bit nervy at Vicarage Road this evening, but it sounds like it's a house party.
Glenn's telling us what he thinks about Ranieri and Watford, and he's gone bonkers at Vicarage Road. You and Jonathan Pearce are out of control.
I'm trying to concentrate, and these two are messing around on the Zoom.
Sorry, Glenn. No, we're being very professional, Glenn.
They're really enjoying the tunes now. So this is the reality, that Watford have lost 13 of 19 league fixtures this season. No team has lost more at the halfway stage of a 38-game Premier League campaign and gone on to avoid relegation. They're the only side in England's top 4 divisions without a league clean sheet this season. They've conceded a club record 29 successive top-flight matches since a 3-0 win against Liverpool in February 2020. So it's obvious where the improvement needs to come from. They've got games in hand, but they've got to make sure they can turn those games in hand into wins. If we look at this, Karen, from a Norwich perspective, they're not very good on the road. They've got the 3rd worst away record in the Premier League. They've lost 7 out of 10 matches and picked up 5 points. But Dean Smith will be hoping that sometimes when you're in a relegation battle, one result, one game can turn it for you, and he's going to be hoping that was the performance and result against Everton.
Yeah, exactly. They just need to go into this with confidence and momentum, and they might have got that, and you'd like to think, and like I said earlier, he said the training ground's buzzing, and that's all you can ask for as a manager. There's a confidence, there's a buzz around the training ground, and that just goes into this game tonight, because it's going to be hard. Already, the fans have all got the flags out, the scarves out at Watford, so they're really heavily pushing them tonight to get behind them and be the extra player on the pitch out there, so it's going to be difficult for Norwich. But you mentioned the stats, they're both just as bad as each other, so who wants it the most?
Well, I've got to say the DJ's done his or her bit tonight. The tunes have been magnificent. The atmosphere inside the stadium is fantastic, and the players are on their way. Glenn Murray's going to be back with me at half-time when we look at the perilous situation that Derby County find themselves in, but the famous sound of Z cars is in the air at Vicarage Road. So let's join your commentary team tonight for a massive game at the bottom of the Premier League. It's Watford against Norwich, and Karen Carney is alongside Jonathan Pearce.
Thank you, Darren. Good evening, everyone, once again. And as the players come out, Watford fans lift above their heads their yellow and red and black scarves to mark the 5th anniversary of the passing of Graham Taylor. The Graham Taylor match is held once a year here in memory of the great man. He was a lovely man, he was a generous man, he was a thoughtful man, he was a football man, and they will always remember the man who changed Watford. And because we've had the live TV fireworks, there is a huge pall of smoke that now drifts around Vicarage Road. Before we will be able to kick off, that smoke will have to dissipate before Mike Dean, the referee, can get us going. The players are on the far side from us with their backs towards us in front of the Graham Taylor stand. Graham Taylor, OBE, born September the 15th, 1944, and he passed on January the 12th, 27. Watford's greatest ever manager, it says on the big giant TV screens away to our right-hand side. I don't think anyone would argue with that. Their current manager, Claudio Ranieri, has to get over all those ominous omens Darren was talking about. No side has ever stayed up, having lost as many games as Watford have by this stage of the season. Which team will go on to build on those positive results last time out? The Watford plucky point, resolute point at Newcastle. Norwich with the welcome win over Everton. 6 league defeats in 7 for the visitors, 7 defeats in 8 for the home side. Neither has form, but a Watford win would take them very close to Everton, who would be just 2 points clear of the bottom 4. 3 from 4, well, you never know, someone else might get sucked back into it. Perhaps it will be the winners of the mini-league of fixtures between the teams at the bottom who stay up. And Watford have already won at Norwich, don't forget, had 2 draws against Newcastle as well, so they're yet to play against Burnley. The 2 captains meet to flip the coin. The captain of Watford, Moussa Sissoko, and the captain of Norwich, Grant Hanley. And Watford in their yellow with their black chest hoops and black shorts and yellow socks have Bachmann in goal. Firmino Kabasele, his first start since October. New signing Samir and Hassan Kamara, another new signing. That's their back 4. Then there's 3. Another new signing, Edo Kayembe, DR Congo-born player. Tom Cleverley back in the side. His first league start since December, and Moussa Sissoko. And then Emmanuel Dennis, Josh King and João Pedro up front. The referee any second now will blow his whistle before I can bring you the Norwich lineup, and the players of both sides and the match officials and the team officials will take the knee, and Vicarage Road ripples its applause in the constant battle against racism and social injustice. And off we go then. Norwich in fluorescent orange type pink, kicking from right to left in this first half, and a bright start has Sargent into the Watford box, and he goes down under a challenge and nothing is given. Norwich with Angus Gunn in goal because Tim Krul has a shoulder injury, and then a back 4 of Aarons, Hanley, Gibson and Williams. A midfield 4 of Josh Sargent on the right, Pierre-Lys Milou, the summer signing from Nice, Jakob Sorensen, who keeps his place, Milo Ratsitska on the left-hand side, and Timmy Pukki and Adam Ida up front. And though McLean is fit after COVID, he is only on the bench. 4 changes for Watford, including that big one in goal where Bachmann is in place of Foster once again. So it was a bright start there, Karen, by Norwich City. Front foot start by them.
Yeah, absolutely. Sargent looks like he's full of confidence driving into the box, and they've started bright and pressing well, Norwich.
Sissoko has lost out. Is Ida with the turn towards the edge of that Watford penalty area, and it's a cumbersome challenge on him by Sissoko that gives away a free kick here. And Norwich perked up by that win against Everton, and they beat Charlton in the Cup as well. 2 victories in the last 3 in all competitions. Have started very, very brightly here. It was a mistimed challenge that brought the young Irishman down. Got the wrong side to make the challenge initially, and both Watford players involved, the first Kayembe and then Sissoko, giving away the free kick in dangerous territory. It's a free kick that Milo Ratsitska will take, the Kosovan, who is a right-footed player. He stands to the left of the ball, stoops, puts his hands on the ball. It's a perfect night for football. Not as cold as it has been. It's dry, little pool of smoke from those fireworks just drifted away a little bit in the far corner from us, and it's going to be a free kick here. Can Norwich profit very early on? Rashitska with it, and it hit the draft excluder Tom Cleverley, and it can be cleared away by Watford, who are now look to counter the pace of Dennis on the left-hand side. King has gone ahead of it, and there's a little foul there, and a free kick conceded for the challenge in the heart of the midfield on João Pedro, and the referee will pull things back and give this free. 2 players are down on the ground. João Pedro is one of them, and the Norwich player involved was Max Aarons. He's okay now. 0-0, 2.5 minutes played. 5 live from the BBC. Very important game at the foot of the table. Watford 17th, 14 points from 19. Norwich 18th, 13 points from 21. Newcastle have 12 points from 20, and Burnley 11 points from 17, with all those games in hand. And you wonder if that will catch up with them in the last few weeks of the season, when they'll have to play certainly twice a week, and maybe even more come the last couple of weeks. A team that cannot score away from home, Norwich, and can't keep goals out against a team that can be terrific here, Karen. You know, they were magnificent against Manchester United, awful recently against West Ham here. Never quite know with Watford. They have their first attack building up now on the right-hand side. Dennis trying to shrug off the marker cleverly, loops it forward, and a chance now for them to have a potential run towards the dead ball line. They couldn't get to that dead ball line though, and it's cleared away, and a free kick is given against Watford.
It's feisty already. Really, you can tell that both teams are well up for this. You've seen though Watford are a threat on the counter-attack, and though Dean Smith was very, very wary of that. He said that in his pre-match, how much of a threat Watford were last week against Newcastle on the counter-attack. So they've got to be really set up for that. I've already seen them have an opportunity. Norwich with a set piece from Rashika. Good opportunity, hit it low. It's been a bright, energetic start and some feisty challenges as well.
The free kick will be taken by Angus Gunn. Only a 5th game for him this season. He turns 26 years of age tomorrow. A big match to come into as well, with Tim Krul out injured. Throw to Norwich City, far side from us, halfway inside the Watford half, right-hand side. Aarons takes it, brings it under control again as it's returned to him, and it's prodded back to the halfway line, and Grant Hanley all the way back into his own half, and Angus Gunn with the orange boots, right-footed, launches it long. And underneath that now for Watford is one of the home debut boys to clear it away, Hassan Kamara, French-born Ivorian international, not involved in the African nations obviously. Scrappy from Watford, they've conceded possession and now got it back again in the heart of the midfield with Sissoko.
I think you mentioned defensive, as soon as it went back to Gunn in goal for Norwich, it passed it back, you just saw how quickly Watford condensed the pitch. The back line was straight away, close up to the halfway line. They're really trying to narrow the distances and really try and push Norwich back and keep it nice and compact and condensed. And you're right, they're able to do that with the new signings, defensive display, make an impact already. And in centre midfield, you can see already there's some more stability in a block that Ranieri really wants to protect them, wants that first clean sheet desperately.
You can also see as well in the Norwich side the fact that McLean is fit again, but he didn't get his place back in the side because they got a good result against Everton, and Dean Smith has kept faith with these faithful players like Sorensen in midfield. He's just won that again, just inside this near right-hand touchline. We're at the back of the old main stand here, and it's Watford in possession, Karen.
I think you alluded to that with Norwich. He hasn't changed the team other than the goalkeeper, and that's been forced. And last week, you're right, he only had 2 centre midfielders, so had to change it, and it went in his favour. And credit to him, we spoke about momentum, we spoke about confidence. Why change a winning side when they're flying? So he stuck with it. See if they can try and get 2 Premier League wins on a bounce.
And I wonder if he's now got an idea of the 14, 15, 16 players he's now going to trust for the second half of the season to potentially dig Norwich out of trouble, and he'll keep faith with them.
There's a massive gap though, that even though the centre-back pair in it, it is relatively new, they do cross over, and I think if Norwich are smart, Kucka can be in, and I know Ida's had an opportunity, and if they can just find them, they're kind of following players, Watford, and there's gaps coming up right at the back line.
That's the first time this Watford defence will have played together, certainly, and it's a rare start really for Kabasele. He hasn't featured in the side at all since the 2nd of October, only a 3rd league start for him this campaign, and it's another free kick for Norwich City now, 7 minutes gone. It's a free kick 10 yards in from the left-hand side of the football field, and exactly 18 yards inside the Watford half. 3 alternate strips of grass, light and dark green, 6 yards each strip. In comes the free kick to the far side of the penalty area. Another foul given, but a push by Grant Hanley, just climbing there on the back of Josh King, I think it was. Free kick to Watford, and a chance for Daniel Batman to get things going once again for them. Enthusiastic crowd here, average around about 20,500. I can't see too many empty seats. Norwich have certainly filled their quota away to the right-hand side Vicarage Road stand to our right, the Rookery away down the left-hand side, and then you can see the blocks of the hospital behind the main stands, the floodlights mainly on the roofs of the stands here all around us, and Norwich attack down the far side, their right-hand side, and they look for young Ida, who took his goal well at the weekend, his first of the campaign in that very important win against Everton, who could find themselves in trouble at the end of this weekend. It is a significant weekend, I feel. Here's Sargent, back then to young Max Aarons, and he's forced another throw in. Norwich as well on the far side, the 21-year-old. We have plenty of friends and family here. He comes from this particular part of the country. He's from Hammersmith in London, and it's going to be a throw then that he will take on the right hand side. Looks for Timu Puki, Kucka has camera tucked up behind him, still got the cross in. Opportunity here then for either to get a low ball into the penalty. It lacked support. Actually, Norwich are complaining there that there was a back pass to goalkeeper Bachmann, and the referee has ignored. Not too sure it was, Karen, to be honest.
No, it wasn't, but I think he was actually calling out for a corner. He felt it was, but a good play coming from a throw-in. Nice little turn from Kucka, gets into the box, and that's the benefit of having Ida a little bit deeper. When he runs in, he's running off the back shoulders of midfielders, and centre-backs aren't picking him up. He had that opportunity, eventually then it came and blocked, and that's what he was calling for about the corner. But it's probably a brighter start. We've seen more of the front two of Norwich than we have of Watford. I mean, I was looking on paper thinking the front three of Watford, Pedro, King and Dennis, especially Dennis, you expect them to probably keep them up with that they're the difference, but I haven't seen enough of them just yet.
So Pedro has lost possession for Watford, but it's regained by Moussa Sissoko, drives forward in the inside left channel. Across the block comes Sorensen, who got something on it, ricochets then back to Grant Handley, and he pushes it away to Aarons on the right hand side. Good pressure on him by João Pedro. He scored in that very good draw up at Newcastle. That's 2-2 now. The teenager, the 18-year-old. 5 starts for him this season before tonight, including the last couple. He was signed for the club before he really kicked a ball at first team level. Came from Fluminense in Brazil. Away it goes then by Gibson at the back for Norwich. Drops in the centre of the midfield. The Sargent will collect in a diagonal run from right to left with that mop of tousled auburn hair. He plays the ball to the left-hand side of midfield and look for the return. Quickly on then by Rashica. Good run by Sargent. Really criticised for his lack of goals this season. Only has a couple of the USA international. Time for Werder Bremen in the summer, but he does work hard. I've watched him a lot in German football at Werder Bremen. And I thought he'd score more goals in England than he has. Everyone did, to be fair. Here's Aarons. Probably out him from the right-hand side. Progressive football again by Norwich. They look down that right-hand touchline. Look again to get the ball in from Sargent out there, but he's lost possession. It's a poor clearance away. And it comes to Sargent again. A little bit of a trick inside the penalty area. Sets it back and there's a bending shot. Not bad at all. From just inside the penalty area by Milo Rashica. Didn't bend enough and went over the bar. Goal kick.
Look, you can't be giving the ball away. Sissoko in key areas, playing it out. They've jumped in and nicked it. Norwich, and then they're on the attack in the 18-yard box. Good play from Sargent, course it back and tries to pass it out to Rashica. He just tries to bend it in, see what he's trying to do with the inside. They're putting pace on the back pass to him. Just can't get the accuracy on the finish and not hitting the target. But this will be key tonight. You know, mistakes in key areas. That's a big marker that you cannot do in such a tight game. Can't be giving the ball away in silly areas and giving the opposition those chances.
The problem here, Norwich City, one of their players is down just outside the Watford penalty area. We're seeing a cutaway of Claudio Ranieri, arms across his chest down below us in the big padded coat. Sorensen is down for Norwich City on the far side, getting some treatment on his left calf, I think, from the physio who's out there looking down on him with close attention. Is Pierre-Lys Malou, their summer signing from Nice, who cost £6 million. They didn't splurge the cash when they came up, but they did bring in 11 players in all for nigh on £60 million, balancing the books by sending Buendia out, of course, to Aston Villa, and 1 or 2 other players out. The net spend was up to 21 in all, 21 million. And no one gave him a chance, but you know, in this little mini league of 4 at the bottom, and Everton might drop into it, and Leeds aren't clear yet. Brentford could do with some more points. I think they've got hope now if they can get something here, Norwich, and get another couple of positive results in games to come. They go to Wolves in the Cup and have then Crystal Palace at home and Manchester City at home. Good luck with that one, by the way, because Norwich know what happens when they play against Manchester. Mind you, they've had a couple of big results against big teams at Carrow Road, you know, in their various seasons in the top flight.
Who was it when their first game there 2 seasons ago when they first came up? I remember it was a really, when Pookie hit the ground running. It's a terrible question then if it was ages ago, but you're right, they can get results, and you already see confidence in him. You spoke about Sargent earlier. I've seen him a few times this season. He's just lacked confidence. I see a different kind of aura about him tonight. Now I've seen him live. you know, there's a bit more zip, and also in the midfield there's a bit more stability. I think Lise Malou, Sorensen in there, just giving that stability, protecting the back line.
Are you asking me to remember what happened 2 years ago? I can't remember what happened yesterday.
Oh no, sorry.
In towards Cleverley. Back to the supporting Dennis. Square it goes. Sargent into the heart of midfield. Was that not a City actually they played against early on that season and did well? I can't remember. We'll try and check. George, the producer's hot on it.
George is scrambling, you can see. Come on, George.
Yeah, so expect the news around about June. Now, Femenia on this right-hand side, a yard in support is Cleverley. Cleverley settles on the ball with that familiar mousy sort of shaved head style. Not a good ball in, and Gibson thwacks it away to the halfway line. And swooping to head it forward was Cabaselli. Watford have possession with Edu Kayembe. He was signed from Open in Belgian football for £4.7 million. And he's not at the African Cup of Nations because they didn't, I don't think they qualified, but anyway, it's Cabaselli now. Big switch of play, right-footed, away towards Pedro. Good ball, and he took it neatly with Aarons just behind him. Now it's into the heart of midfield, and Kayembe's there, slips it away to that left-hand side once again. They're about 18 yards from the dead ball, and comes across looking for Dennis at the far post. He rose high, might have fouled his man, yes. A free kick is given as he climbed on that far side and left Brandon Williams on the deck.
It's good play from Watford. They're just trying to stretch and make Norwich run and using the whip to advantage. You see Dennis was hugging this touchline nearest to us on the right-hand side, and Pedro on the other side, and a big switch out to Pedro. Lovely touch, as you said. Get to the byline, overlapping from Kamara, cross comes in, and then the other opposite wingers coming in. So they're really trying to use the width and get both wingers, full-backs involved, because they are quite narrow in how they play, Norwich, so you can just try and pull them apart. And Dennis and Brandon Williams will be quite an interesting little battle.
I was right, they did beat Manchester City thanks to George early on in that season, 3-2, but that was a month after they'd beaten Newcastle, which was the game you're talking about. 3-1, and Pukki hat-trick. A Pukki hat-trick in that game. He also scored in the game against Manchester City as well.
Well done, George, and it's not June.
I know, he's startled us all there. And it's going to be a throw now to Norwich, far side from me. So that's 25 yards out from goal, 16 minutes played. It's Watford 0, Norwich 0. And a draw here would suit the rest of them down the bottom end, that's for certain. The crowd groan as Mike Dean gives a free kick for a challenge in that heart of the midfield, tackle on Lise Malou. But it's been a fairly accomplished start. Not accomplished, but a fairly comfortable start, I would say, by Norwich. We've got a goal, Rangers, Sterling, Connie McLaughlin.
It's for the home side. Rangers are ahead. Alexander Lowry, the 18-year-old who's just come on as a substitute, scoring his first goal for Rangers. It was Bakuna who played him on, and he just passed the ball just in the bottom left-hand corner into the back of the net. Rangers 1, Stirling Albion 0.
And in the Scottish Cup, gulf between the two sides in terms of league positions, as Connie was telling us early. So that's earlier on, I should say. So they were Rangers expected to win that one. Here's Sargent, neat turn from the American on the far side of the penalty area from us. That was the Norwich right-hand side. It came to nothing in the end. And now Cleverley will loop a clearance from Watford from the centre of the midfield to this near side. And Dennis was just taken down in rudimentary fashion by Brandon Williams. And he's left on the deck. That hurts.
I think he went in to get tight to Dennis. The ball was up in the air, and Dennis just too quick, just little nick in front of him, and then he's absolutely come in, and very, very late. Brandon Williams, very late.
They're on loan from Manchester United, summoned to Mike Dean, and he'll get a little ticking off there. I always think, when referees summon you, but especially Mike Dean, it is like being picked out in front of the rest of the school and summoned by the headmaster towards you. He gives me memories, very bad memories, I'm afraid, of my school days when the headmaster would summon you in that sort of way. And I suppose you were the goody two-shoes at school, were you?
No comment. I was I wasn't. I was usually counting pigeons. Now
Watford have possession down below me, right full-back position, Kucka for Menia. And then they turn it square from Cabaselli to the left-hand side centre-back, and he loops long away to Dennis, who's okay, and that's a lovely ball actually out to him, deep inside Norwich territory, right-hand side, 0-0. Dennis, a couple of step-overs, the blue shoes there, blue boots, showing cleverly with a shot set up by Dennis, claim a deflection, might ding as a corner.
Again, I think this is the battle tonight. Dennis versus Brandon Williams, I really do. I think straight away, get it out to Dennis, he does double step over, draws another player in, because I'm not so sure they're convinced with Brandon Williams at the moment, leaving him 1v1 with him, drag another player over, and it leaves a gap then for someone else, and that was Tom Cleverley, and gets a left-footed shot off, wasn't convincing on his weaker foot, and he goes out for a corner.
First one of the night for Watford. Just a little concern there for Norwich in that Sorensen was down again, and one of his teammates went towards him. He's picked himself up now, he's marking at the far post on Cabaselli, I think it is. In comes the corner kick now then, low and flat towards the near post, and it's launched away by Aarons, clear towards this near side, and Watford will try and build again and get it back in the middle with Kayembe, who'll settle for a throw, taken quickly by Kiko Femenia, who tucks it down the line to Kayembe. Left foot crosses deep towards the far post, and that'll swing away though. Dennis will give chase, Williams was there with him, it just goes away and out of play for a goal kick, and Norwich will settle. Karen, I think you've seen there's going to be a substitution. McLean's going to come on. I think this will be the end of Sorensen.
Yeah, it's a shame he's gone down a couple of times, and I said you get your winning team, you get a bit of momentum, and I spoke about how solid that him and Lise Malou have been in that midfield and just protecting, and they made a change. But look, coming on, he's a very experienced midfielder, very accomplished, and he'll just sit in there. McLean very well, but it's a shame they've got it for Sorensen.
McLean will come on for him. Missed the game last week, having tested positive. When he comes to that Norwich midfield, then McLean is on for them. The first change of the game with 20 minutes gone, and we'll tuck straight into that midfield area. The player who turned 30, Scottish player, turned 30 earlier this month, been at Norwich for some 4 years now, joined in January 18 from Aberdeen, and he's just missed that one game in the last 22. He is a regular and gets his first touch on it in that midfield area, Kenny McLean, and rises again to nod it forward into the centre circle. Rashitska was there, but now Watford can bring the ball out of play, out towards that far left-hand side. And I'll tell you who's taken up some good positions for them is Kayembe from the midfield. He's over there in support once again. They couldn't get there, the new sign. I think they've made a real difference to them, and the fact that they've allowed Claudio Ranieri to nominate his targets, and they've gone for them. The three of them are playing here today, Camara and Kayembe and Samir Caetano, and I think that's the Watford board need applause for that.
Well, I think he's got a good relationship, Ranieri, with the owners, and I think they, everyone's saying, oh, he's under pressure. He's on other managers in the past. It's just their 7th manager they've been through in this quite a short period of time. But I think they obviously know him, they trust him, and like you said, he's been given players he needs. Look, the facts are they haven't kept a clean sheet in the Premier League, so they need defensive-minded players, and that's what they've been able to bring in.
Now João Pedro in behind the Norwich defence. Williams comes back, good challenge on him. It's going to be a corner kick to the right hand side. We've got a goal, Rangers against Stirling Albion. Let's go back up to Connie McLaughlin.
No major surprises. There's another goal for Rangers, this time from the penalty spot after the referee had deemed there to be a handball in the Stirling Albion back line. James Tavernier, as he usually does, converts the penalty. Rangers 2, Stirling Albion 0.
Job done? Well, you never know. It's going to be a corner kick then to Watford, taken by Cleverley into the edge of the 6-yard area, and coming to meet it in there was João Pedro. He twisted his head. He's a tall young man out there, 6'1", 6'2", I would guess. Twisted his head, won it, but headed way over the bar.
Just seen that. I don't know whether I don't think it is because of the corner, but because they had time to change. But João Pedro has now come to the right hand side, and Dennis has gone to the left hand side. So João Pedro will be against Williams. Dennis will be 1v1 against Max Aarons.
McLean slid in, won it for Norwich, pumped it into the Watford half, and determined defending back in there by Cabaselli, but the referee's already seen something else. They're given a free kick here to Norwich, Initially, he tried to allow play to go on and then was pulled it back then. So it's a free kick 3 yards in from this left-hand side. It's 10 yards inside the Watford half.
I think it was... Sorry, JP, I think it was a foul on... He'd been pulled down and then it played on, and there would have been a foul on Cabaselli, but he's pulled it back for the first foul in favour of Norwich.
And he's a target in there, isn't he, Adam Ida, the 6'3" court-born Republic of Ireland international. Jinx to come short, then goes long, but it is hit away towards the far side, way away from Ida. Medi's run sort of inside the left position. It was launched diagonally across the far side of the penalty. It comes to nothing. And both sides now a bit harum-scarum. The game started okay in terms of pace, but it's got a little bit frenetic, a little bit frantic now.
There's no quality really, or no control, but look, you could expect that given what's at stake given this game. So, you know, at some point we need one of the midfielders to get a grip, but I don't think that's the style of either of them at this moment. That's
a free kick to Watford. Rashitska jumped into his man and left Vermenia on the ground. We've got a penalty at Ibrox, Connie.
We have. It's just been saved by the Stirling Albion goalkeeper. James Tavernier again, the man who is always on penalties for Rangers, was just about to take his second in about 3 or 4 minutes. He decided to go the other way this time, and the keeper was wise to it. So it's still Rangers 2, Stirling Albion 0 in the Scottish Cup.
Thank you very much. 25 minutes gone here at Vicarage Road, and it's 0-0 between these two sides. Coming up on 5 Live this weekend. Tomorrow, Manchester United against West Ham United with Ian Dennis and Pat Nevin, and the normal score service. You'll hear first and fastest the goals as they go in around the country on Sunday. Crystal Palace against Liverpool. Conor McNamara and Glenn Murray's on duty for us tonight as well. You'll hear him at half-time. Chelsea against Spurs with Johnny Murray and Matt Upson is at 4:30 on Sunday. Big game that, in the chase for European positions. If we are assuming that the chase for the Premier League title is all but done and dusted. But Liverpool will say that's not the case, and Chelsea fans will live in hope. They'll have to do better than they did at Brighton the other night, though, when Brighton deserved to beat them. And that's twice this season Brighton, I think, have deserved to beat Chelsea, and they haven't. And what is that, 11 draws now for Brighton? If you actually say, right, if they'd have won half of those games, they'd be a top 5 side this season. That's a foul inside the penalty area as Josh King just backed into Hanley as he was looking to receive a throw from the left-hand side. Good noise from the Norwich fans away to our right-hand side, Karen.
Yeah, coming good force and good numbers, trying to get players up, but at the moment it is kind of a bit of head tennis. Not like I said, neither team's got a rhythm, neither team has got it down. I know that since Ranieri's come in, they're probably a little bit less possession based and more pressing from the front and trying forcing errors, but not even from a Norwich perspective. I haven't seen anyone really get a grip of the game. Maybe McLean coming in might put an impact on that.
7 points in 12 games under Claudio Ranieri, same number as Cisco Nunez got at the start of the season, and then got the boot. And it's a scrambly sort of clearance away by Watford, trying to play their way out of trouble, but the referee Mike Dean has given them a hand by giving them a free kick for a challenge on camera just inside his penalty. Had to react very, very quickly, actually, the French-born Ivorian international, because the ball's angled out to him by Daniel Bachmann. He was put into a little bit of bother there.
I think that's why the momentum keeps stopping, JP. There's a lot of fouls, and it's really like stifling the play, and it's like, right, we get going, foul, get going, throw in, and it just seems like they just want to stifle each other's rhythm at the moment and then wait for that one mistake or that bit of brilliance, and who is that going to be?
McLean headed it squared deep inside the Norwich half, and it's looped forward by Lys Malou. Norwich trying to get Ida going on that left-hand side, but he can't. It's going to be a throw then to Watford, and it'll be taken by Hassan Kamara, who has looked fairly impressive here on his home debut. Saw him a fair amount last season playing for Nice. He was only at Nice for a year, and I have to say, he didn't stand out as a player you'd think, well, he'll be immediately successful in the Premier League. But he started well against Newcastle, and he started well here tonight. João Pedro, who Watford lost it in the lights, and Williams is challenged by Cleverley, trips, no free kick given. João Pedro races away inside right position to the edge of the penalty area, plays it square. Sissoko arrives, the shot was deflected, blocked I think by Hanley, and breaks away to the heart of midfield, but they haven't won it there again with Rashica, so Norwich can come again, and King tries to plant a shot that deflects away off Hanley and spins to the right hand side, looped away to João Pedro with the header into Cleverley and nods it wide to Kucka for Menia. The momentum is building, header away by Aarons on the far side of the penalty. Watford look to go again, and Sargent bangs a clearance 80 yards, 90 yards deep into Watford territory, all the way back to their penalty area, and it's collected on 5 Live by Bachmann, and the crowd stirs because Watford there put together a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, well, I think that what they did is they got it to the most eye-catching players and dribblers, and what they do is they draw 2 players over, and that was João Pedro draws 2 players over, and it leaves again Sissoko or someone else in the midfield spare, and they can get the shot off. But Hanley made 2 good blocks.
Quality ball by Cleverley away towards the left-hand side for Watford. Camera into the feet of Kayembe, finds Camera again. This time the cross is blocked by Aarons, comes back to Kayembe, stocky midfielder, out towards the left-hand touchline. Can they get the cross from that far side into the penalty area? King is in the penalty area, Pedro is into the penalty. The cross was whipped in and headed away by Kenny McLean, and Norwich try to reorganise to meet the second ball as it comes in on 5 Live, approaching the half hour now on the BBC. 0-0 here at Vicarage Road. Kayembe for Watford away towards the left-hand side. They look to get the cross in again from that far side of the penalty area. They tried to just work it into the box. It came to nothing in the end. They tried to slip it into the edge of the Norwich box. It was blocked by Aarons, and it will be cleared away. Dennis was the man who was trying to slip it in from that far side.
Yeah, I think Dennis there, can he be brave? I know he's on that left-hand side and he wants to come in on his right foot, but can he get to the byline? Because when you come in as a wide player, you're running actually into bodies, because that's where all the Norwich players are. Go 1v1 and take him on the outside.
Well, Brandon Williams has brought the ball out for Norwich. Thought he was fouled. I don't think he was. He went to the ground, groaned at the referee. Meanwhile, Watford are attacking on their far side from us. That's their left. There's Dennis out wide to the left-hand touchline. Kayembe now has it. He's got about 2 or 3 yards of space. Could turn it back to Sissoko. Works it away towards the left-hand side. Can they get the cross in from that far side? You've got Kamara into the penalty area. On the left, it's switched by João Pedro. Good ball away then to Kucka for Menia. Right-hand side, darts the cross into the middle. Looking for Cleverley, who made the run to the near post. And it's a stooping header away by Ben Gibson in the corner kick. And Watford are getting on top, Cara.
Yeah, momentum's building now. Like you said, they're just shifting it from left to right, getting the wide players involved, full-backs. Dennis looking really bright. Pedro as well, João Pedro, and getting Firmino forward, full-back supporting them and getting crosses into the box. And what it's doing, it's pinning Norwich back and forcing them to defend, and I don't think they can get out and protect the wide areas as comfortably as they would wish.
The worst defence in the top flight. Norwich conceded 25 goals. And Watford looking for their 100th Premier League goal with a header from Cabaselli straight at the keeper from the resulting corner.
Cabaselli would be disappointed there, because the corner came in out swinging from Cleverley and he was free 8 yards out, but it wasn't enough pace on the delivery really for him to get the power that he really wanted. It was a comfortable save then from gun and goal.
Half-time, Rangers, Sterling in the Scottish Cup. Connie McLaughlin.
Yeah, Rangers in control of this one. They're 2 goals to the good, and what a moment for 18-year-old Alex Lowry. Came on as a sub for the injured Hadji and grabbed his first goal in the first 3 minutes of being on. James Savinier made it 2 from the penalty spot, but failed to convert another one a few minutes later. It is only 2, but Rangers comfortable and edging closer to the Scottish Cup 5th round. Rangers 2, Stirling Albion 0 at half-time.
Thank you very much. Watford on the attack down the right-hand side with Josh King. He's got Sissoko in support. Norwich with 5-6 the orange shirts back inside their own penalties. Orange, or is it pink? Well, anyway, Watford build on their left. Here's Cleverley, who's dropped across. They covered a lot of ground to get out there, actually, with Camera. Here's Dennis, deep. 10 yards outside the penalty area, coming in from the left-hand side. He's clipped there by Lise Malone. It's a free kick. Is that orange or is that pink? That's Norwich strip.
It's like salmon colour, I thought.
Fluorescent, isn't it?
I don't know. It's bright, that's what it is.
It's hideous.
All right, JP. No, I was just going to say that there is a problem for Norwich defending the wide areas. They really are really narrow, and when it gets switched out, and that's what they're doing really well now. Firmino is coming out as a right back, pushing on. Kamara is as well, and they're getting width, and then the two wide players are coming in a bit narrow, and they don't know what to do. Norwich don't know how to defend it.
Free kick. Cleverley takes it right-footed all the way through. It's really disappointing. And it's 0-0. Given that Watford are the home side, given they probably have more of the ball, Norwich aren't doing badly at all, but they've given that away. Had his ball out of defence bypassed McLean, who turned and looked in exasperated fashion at the youngster because he's conceded possession. And now Kayembe to the left, pushed on down that line by Camera. Got a chance for Dennis to get the cross, and looks for the run there of Kayembe, and the low flashing cross dealt with inside that penalty area by young Gunn.
That's exactly what they need to do. I kept saying getting out wide areas, but they've got to get to the byline a little bit, and fair play to him there, getting it out wide, I think it was Kamara actually was ghosting in, and he got the cross in. It was a low cost driven across. You just think, is someone get in and get a tap in? But we've got to keep penetrating the byline, and then that's where the weakness is for Norwich.
Josh King has left a foot in on Gibson. It's a free kick to Norwich, deep inside their own territory. Watford 0, Norwich 0. We've been playing some 34 minutes at Vicarage Road, no goals. One worthy attempt on goal for the home side, the Cabaselli header saved, and at the other end Timo Pukki had an effort that flashed over.
I think he's just taking his time there.
Or rather it was Rashitska, wasn't it, that had the shot over.
Sorry, I'm just...
Yeah, he's okay.
Seeing that Gibson's taking his time, and I think it's actually to give Norwich a little bit of a breather, regroup. I saw Craig Shakespeare there getting some information on Norwich assistant to McLean, saying, look, I just need you to sit. You need to sit with Lys Malou and just protect us and just get us a little bit more back into this game.
Came with Dean Smith from Aston Villa, did Craig Shakespeare. And set it away from the heart of the midfield by Kayembe. Rashitska on the left-hand side for Norwich, no way through for him. Now João Pedro, promising run on the halfway line. Burst between two Norwich players. King brings it down, all a little bit scrappy, did well to hold off the challenge of Williams. Splashed square by Kayembe, looking for the pace of Dennis. Max Aaron's all hesitant, didn't go for the ball. And he might be made to pay for that. Here comes Camera on the overlap, little chip into the middle. Gibson headed it away, back to Dennis on the edge of the penalty area, and he's fouled his man. Free kick, no need to foul there. A free kick for the challenge, and he's left one of the Norwich players writhing in pain. Pierre-Lys Malou it is. It's a free kick.
They're saying he jumped in there, JP. Norwich players are going around saying he jumped in, and they're looking for a little bit more.
There's a yellow card going to come out for Dennis. This may well be checked by VAR. You know, VAR is tonight. John Brooks, I think it is. And certainly Pierre-Lys Malou was caught there. Let's have a look at it again, Karen. Comes away from Dennis's challenge.
I think they're saying I need to see. To be fair, I think Lys Malou has gone in more aggressive and he's come out worse. I think they've gone in. I think he's tried to like jump on top of it. It's a strange. I think Lys Malou's he's even lucky that he's come off worse, but he's intent. I don't know why you're jumping in like that.
He's jumped in two-footed.
Jumped in two-footed and high.
Dennis definitely got a yellow card. But looking at that again, we're a long way away from it. We've seen one replay here. I think he's a little bit hard done by, though, the Watford player, do you not?
No, I completely agree, because I think I'm trying to think why you would do that, Lys Malou, because you don't jump in two-footed over the ball. It's so risky. And he's lucky there, and you're right, I feel for Dennis.
Lucky enough to be working alongside Karen Carney again, having been lucky enough to commentate on so many occasions for the Lionesses over the years. Qualification for Canada in 2015. Some games where you didn't even get the opposition lineups until 2 minutes before the game kicked off. I remember going down the...
Nor did we, JP.
I remember going down the tunnel at Portsmouth pretending to be a match official to get the team that day of the opposition. There's another yellow card here, and it's getting a wee bit heated, Karen, as foul this time was McLean. Was it on Cleverly?
Yeah, again, it was high. I think McLean saying Cleverly made the most of it, but again, you go in high, you leave yourself risky. Balls up. Just caught him. I think Lys Malou's was a lot worse personally, but the referee, I think now he's just trying to take control of it, because it's a little bit wild, I'd say.
His players need to calm down a little bit. Dennis in the court in the book for Watford, not for the first time this season actually. He does have that against his character. 7 yellows he's had now. It's just missed time challenges, I think. Here he is. He's such a very promising first season for them. Pulls it back. Kayembe, central midfield, wriggles away, shimmies away from Pierre-Lys Malou, finds the left-hand touchline again. Dennis has come in off that line. It was Camera, the left full-back, hugging the line, and now Sissoko as Kayembe slips the ball for him. Sissoko finds Dennis. goes down inside the penalty area. Now he's got to watch it because he twisted away from the defender. I don't think there was contact on him. He's gone down, and well, Mike Dean cautioned him a few moments ago. He's got to watch it because I don't think there was anyone around him when he went to ground.
Well, I think he had a loose touch and then it went through, and he's got away from him, and I think he just fell. I don't think the referee will say anything to him. I don't think he was making anything of it. I think he just fell, actually. But it was a good build-up play from Watford, and where it's coming from is the switch of flanks. That Dennis has gone onto that left-hand side, Pedro's on his right-hand side, and they're coming in narrow, and the full-backs are overloading, and even Kamara's overloading. They're just really trying to put numbers down the side for Norwich, and they just can't cope at the moment. But
6 minutes to go in the half, and they're knocking on the door. Watford 0-0 against Norwich. Game of such importance. Watford could close to within 2 points of Everton, but not like that they won't. Firmino gave it away with the ball from right to left. Timo Pukki, we've hardly seen him really, backtracking inside his own half to win the ball, and he carried away towards the left-hand side. Drew a challenge by King, and drew a foul, although Josh King bounces the ball in frustration. Right here in front of the two sets of managers, it's a free kick to Norwich.
I thought he got the ball, JP, personally. I really do. I thought Pukki did get away from him, and you're thinking, right, don't dive in because it could be, but I think he made contact with the ball, and I think the referee was already committed to it. You see Ranieri's not happy about it, and completely agree.
Williams swings it up to Antonide on the edge of that Watford penalty area, but the home side cleared away. Now McLean, tidy ball, first time back into his own half, handily pursued by João Pedro, has to find the goalkeeper, and Gunn loops it away towards the left-hand side. It's away and out of play with 5 minutes to go. 5 Live from the BBC, and it's Watford 0, Norwich 0. If it stays like this, and Newcastle United and Burnley will be saying thank you very much, and Everton too, because they're breathing a little bit heavily, as we know. Big Duncan Ferguson in charge for the visit of the Villa tomorrow. Steven Gerrard back on Merseyside as the manager of Aston Villa. Now Sissoko has turned goal side here of Lys Malou, and in support he finds Kayembe. Nice little chip away to the left-hand side of the penalty area. Dennis has gone out there, low cross into the middle, and Gibson readjusted his feet, cleared it down to the penalty, and Lys Malou looped the clearance only as far as a Watford player. I thought the pressure was going to come back on them. It hasn't. Norwich regain possession. Look for Pukki. Pukki inside left position. Has a little bit of space now to try and create something. Pulls it away towards Rashica on the left touchline, and as he goes to run beyond Firmino, he goes to ground. No free kick given. Fullback did his job. Goal kick.
There's two things in that. In terms of Norwich defensively and how that attack started for Watford, is Dennis is causing Aaron's problems, and he's following him, and he went infield, and there was a massive gap, and Sissoko broke into that, but they sorted it out. Eventually then Watford are going on the counter attack, but fair play to him. Kayembe, really key. His positional sense, just to slow it down, calm it down, nullify the counter attack, and Norwich was really good. There's just a couple of two tactical things from either side there, but Norwich have really got to box smart with the wide players of Watford, because they are causing them some problems.
Sargent rose in the air with Dennis. The ball has gone beyond them from the keeper's clear out. It'll be a throw to Norwich City. And this change strip, the fluorescent change strip. Look up front, they don't hold it up at all well there, Norwich. So Watford can bring it out once again. Centre circle, they turn to the right-hand side. Kiko Firmino with his orange boots, untidy ball. Didn't look after possession at all. Gives it away to Timo Pukki. Sort of pass from a player that absolutely enrages coaches. Really sloppy in possession.
I don't think he's got any options though there, JP, where Ida's running away from him and actually needs him to come to feet. Give him a little bounce pass and then build and go again. He ran away and gave him, and then there was no connection either. So I agree, the pass was poor from Pukki.
I meant the pass from Firmino when he gave it away.
Sorry.
They looked down the right-hand side. It's headed away by McLean for Norwich City. He's been their best midfield player since he came on. Turns it back now to Lys Malou, and Williams chips up into the Watford half. Rashica heads on, and again it comes to a yellow shirt of Kiko Firmino. Turns it to the left-hand side, and one of the new boys is there. Camera to Dennis, halfway line, far side from us. The Watford right tries to go beyond his man, can't do so. Sargent for Norwich down the line, looking for Aaron's under camera. That's a good turn of speed by him. Got there first, now down by the corner flag, and place percentages, lumps it against Aaron's, and that'll be a throw in. The ball slips away between the Graham Taylor stand and the Rookery, down below the TV studio on the far side with its glass front, and it'll be a throw then to Watford across there. two yo-yo clubs in Premier League football, up and down to the Championship on a regular basis. Just the battle to stay in the top flight. Not decisive, not must win, but it would certainly help not to lose. That's a full header down there by Hanley on the halfway line, and Watford might profit yet. Cleverly trying to get onto the pass by Dennis, who's, I think he was clipped after the ball had gone there, you know. No free kick given. He looks across to Mike Dean, the referee, and Norwich have it once again at 0-0. And we're into the last minute of play in that first half now. We've had a couple of cautions. Won't be that much of stoppage time. Williams for Norwich coming in off the left-hand side, pressurised by João Pedro. Elise Malou glares at the Manchester United loanee. He didn't get the ball forward quick enough, perhaps, there. There was nothing on for him. Nothing on for him at all, Karen.
Yeah, I think that's what you're shouting at Ida there. Give me a run, either come to feet or running behind. Don't just stand there and be an effective locker mannequin. I need something from you. And he had to take another touch, and look, he wasn't dispossessed.
Cleverly for Norwich, heads up towards Josh King. Grant Hanley was too strong for him, and then reaches for a loose ball and hammers it high, right-footed volleyed clearance to the halfway line, where Watford pick it up again. Sissoko, canny signing really from Tottenham. He wasn't everyone's favourite as a Tottenham Hotspur player, given the quality of the midfield players they've had in years gone by, but he played over 200 games for them, and a wily signing by Watford to try and keep them up. We've got 2 minutes of stoppage time being played here. It's 0-0. It will be a throw to Watford down to our right-hand side. Firmino will take it. A little movement towards him by João Pedro, who takes it again. A little back heel sends him away from Williams into the penalty area. Jinks to his left and then poked the shot straight at the goalkeeper when he had options to his left-hand side.
I don't know, it's brilliant bit of skill from João Pedro. Got away from 2-3 players. I mean, him and Josh King are now having arguments because King's saying you should have passed it. But initially, what I love about João Pedro is his wing is getting involved in the box. Wide players, they're getting in there. It's difficult. And I actually felt if it had gone down, I think he would have won a penalty because there was 2 nibbles at him. And fair play to him, he stood up and went past both those nibbles to try and bring him down. And then toe poked at the end product wasn't quite there. But he's so graceful on the ball, isn't he?
I think Rangers 2-0 up against Sterling Albion. And Alex Lowry getting the first, and James Tavernier from the penalty spot getting the second. He then squandered another chance from the spot moments later. Brandon Williams will take a throw for Norwich City on their left, just inside the Watford half. Down the line it goes. It's headed infield by Kiko Femenia, and then Cleverly tried to get it away. Block challenge by Williams. The ball scoots back to Cleverly, and left-footed he scoops it over the top. For the run on here, Josh King. He's got Dennis coming on the far side. Sissoko in support. King looks for Sissoko. The ball played in at pace for the runner in the penalty area, Sissoko. I'm not too sure whether King was expecting it to go on to Dennis, who applauds the intention. But anyway, it's scooted away for a goal kick to Norwich City.
There's the counter-attacking threat that Dean Smith is so worried about. Balling behind, you see Josh King running onto it. Norwich out of sorts, driving in, and you just pick out a good decision, King. Pick out a right one. And to be fair, Sissoko's running in unmarked, but King's absolutely rocketed it across the box, and it's hard for him with his left foot to get the connection, and went out for a goal kick.
So no goals at Vicarage Road. Precious few chances. A disjointed first half, not as rhythmic as our dancing I felt before the game, and we were getting criticised by someone. Let me just tell you, the person who gave us a little bit of stick there back in his studio at home, I've seen him dancing at around about 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. in mornings at clubs around the world, and Darren Fletcher is not a dancer. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Fletch. Truth has to be told, son. The truth has to be told.
Telling it, actually. So that's. Well, I've got to concur. I agree. My rhythm wasn't as good as yours before kick-off. That's for certain. Karen, if we reflect on that 45 minutes, it's pretty much, I suppose, what you'd expect from two teams in the kind of form that Watford and Norwich are.
Yeah, both patchy. The play's been stop-start with free kicks and throw-ins, and there's been a few feisty little moments, and I think just both teams just don't want to make that mistake. They want to stay in the game. I think probably Watford do look the stronger going forward. I think they're causing Norwich some problems down the outside, but however, I'm looking at how much has Gunn had to do for Norwich in goal. Probably very little. They protected him quite well, but just the end product, and you expect that from two teams that are in the situation that they're in, you know. So like JP said, the rhythm hasn't quite been there, but I think a mistake might be the winner tonight. Someone's gonna, you don't want it to be like that, but this is where I'm kind of looking at where it might be won.
Karen, Jonathan, thank you. Second half commentary to come then from Vicarage Road, where it's 0-0 between Watford and Norwich at half-time. Glenn Murray back with me. We're going to be talking Derby County very soon. I mean, it's one of those nights, isn't it, Glenn, when the onus is on you as the home team, and they've got decent attacking players in the side. Watford have got to find a way to at least generate clear-cut opportunities in the second half. They'll kick themselves if they don't win tonight.
Yes, massive game. Like we spoke at the top of the programme, 6-pointer. I think that it's a fine balance, games like this. Obviously, Watford don't want to come out too much and press the game too much and sort of leave that back door open for Norwich, which I'm sure Norwich are hoping for. So I think we're going to build up to a really, really good, exciting second half.
We will be back there for the second half in a few minutes' time. 0-0 between Watford and Norwich at half-time. Coming up, we're going to talk about the latest developments at Derby County with the Telegraph's John Pearcey. But first, let's get the 5 Live News with Sean DaCosta.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
A detective with the Metropolitan Police has been jailed for 3 years for secretly filming women after setting up fake photo shoots. Neil Corbell, who's 40, used cameras hidden in hotel rooms and flats in London, Manchester and Brighton to spy on models as they undressed. He admitted 19 counts of voyeurism. One of his victims, Jessica, said her confidence in the police had been badly damaged. Her words are spoken here by an actress.
He introduced himself and said how he did photography as a hobby and how he'd seen my portfolio. There seemed to be nothing out of the ordinary about it. People call the police when they're in vulnerable positions and they want someone they can trust.
Tributes have been paid to the singer Meat Loaf, who has died at the age of 74. He sold hundreds of millions of albums worldwide, with Bat Out of Hell one of the best-selling recordings of all time. Lorraine Crosby sang with him on the hit single I Do Anything for Love.
I performed with him on Broadway, and then I performed with him at Whitley Bay, where I live. What a great man. He was very generous with everything, and I went and stayed at his house in Connecticut because I was living in New York, and I couldn't get any sleep, and he said, go and stay at my house. And he sent a driver for me. So that kind of thing Meat Loaf would do. He was a very generous man.
Russia and the US have held high-level talks to try to prevent an escalation of the conflict in Ukraine. The US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, warned that any move to invade Ukraine would be met with a swift, severe response. His Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, said the talks were constructive, but reiterated demands for a ban on Ukraine joining NATO. And the Welsh First Minister, Mark Drakeford, has said it's likely that secondary school pupils in Wales will be required to wear face masks in classrooms until at least February half-term. Other restrictions have been eased, though, including limits on the numbers of people who can attend outdoor sporting events.
With BBC Sounds, you can take 5 Live with you wherever you go. Join Nikki Campbell weekday mornings from 9.
Your voice matters to me. We discuss the pressing matters of the day.
I think one of your other callers said, she gets heckled in the street.
Whenever you hear people's experiences and you kind of walk in their shoes a little bit.
The nation's leading phone-in.
You could call it the nation's conversation. I want you to share your views wherever you are.
From Ballymena to Birmingham.
Brighton to Banbury.
Bury to Barry.
Nikki Campbell.
Weekday mornings from 9.
Let's have a chin wag.
The voice of the UK. This is 5 Live.
Listen live, whatever you're up to, on BBC Sounds.
5 Live Sport.
The Friday Football Social. Darren Fletcher.
So second half, commentary to come, Watford against Norwich, but let's move from the Premier League to the Championship for the time being. And a wealthy US family based in New England have made a formal offer to buy Derby County. The Binnies, founders of investment company Carlisle Capital, have submitted a bid of around £28 million. That follows an EFL statement released yesterday calling on the club to name a preferred bidder. The Telegraph's John Pearcey has been across this story right from the very start, and he joins us on the Friday Football Social. John, good evening. Welcome to the programme. It's been a turbulent week for Derby, hasn't it? But this at least looks like a positive piece of news at the end of it.
Evening, Darren. Yeah, it's a very good piece of news. Obviously, it's a critical time at the moment. It's 4 months tomorrow, I think, that the club went into administration. So it's the next 10 days that are going to be absolutely crucial. This news that's come out today is obviously very promising. There's a very good chance that other interested parties will now maybe make their own bids now, because it's getting to the serious point now. Hopefully, the next 10 days we'll have a resolution.
It's reported that the bid doesn't cover Pride Park, which is owned by the former chairman, Mel Morris, which from kind of the outside looking in would look like a problem.
Well, it's one of the complex strands to it. There's so many different complexities to it. There's the stadium, there's the compensation claims from Middlesbrough and Wickham. The stadium obviously is owned by the former owner. That it's been reported that the bid doesn't include that. And there's also the obligations that Middlesbrough and Wickham, they will take those on. But it just seems to be so entwined in, there's hurdles everywhere, wherever you look. And that's why I think it's taken so long and why we're at this critical point so late in the day.
How critical is it? Because you've looked at this in a lot more detail than I have. I mean, are we getting towards the day where the Football League could potentially lose Derby County? How imminent is that? How concerning is that date at the moment?
The February the 1st date is the most important thing at the moment. They have to prove to the EFL they've got the funds to finish the season, fulfil their fixtures and obligations. That is the biggest thing at the moment. The takeover can possibly wait. The preferred bidder has to be named, I think, in the early next week at the absolute latest. They need the money, whether it's a loan or the preferred bidder's money, to prove to the EFL. I think it's 1.5 million a month. So, you could do the maths to the end of the season on that. They need to prove to the EFL they've got the money to finish that. If they don't do that, then we're seriously looking at liquidation. I mean, that's how serious it is. I think Derby's money runs out by the second week of February. So that's how close we are to the crisis point. This next few days are absolutely crucial. They have to name a preferred bidder.
Is there any sign these days of Mel Morris anywhere?
No, I mean, he's been quiet. I mean, I think a few people have spoken to him, but he's obviously, he put the club into administration. He's, in my opinion, whether he's rightly or wrongly, he's got really not had that much criticism for what he's done to the club. A lot of attention has been on the EFL, which I can understand from Derby supporters as well. But Mel's obviously, he's out of football. His money's run out. You can't fault his intent. He's a Derby fan. He's put millions into that club. I don't think anything else. He wanted the club to be promoted. There's no doubt about that. But he is the man who put the club into administration. This is the position they're in now. Whether he can come in and save it, I mean, the stadium is obviously a huge one. I mean, why the stadium company hasn't been put into administration already itself is a mystery to me. The stadium is obviously involved. Whether he can cut that money, accept a lower price, maybe he has. We don't know. These answers, we don't know the answer to these questions.
How much does all of this rest on the outcome of Middlesbrough and Wickham's compensation claims, and is that likely to go right through to the end?
I think whoever does buy the club will have to take them on in the chance that they do lose those cases. I mean, obviously, Derby's administrators would tell you they've spoken to leading QCs and don't think the cases have got anything to stand on. Middlesbrough obviously got their own very qualified QC. I think they've got a perfectly good case. They said the word cheating. That is actually in their statement. They've said Derby cheated, so they think they've got a right. Wickham obviously got relegated last season as a result of the financial rules being broken. The new owners will have to take them on. But I mean, Middlesbrough were quite adamant that this isn't a hurdle, and the EFL are the same. They're trying to broker between the two parties to try and find an agreement. But both parties have said this isn't a hurdle. It's obviously a big thing that's putting off parties. I know that there have been some parties that have pulled out because they've just been so worried about this.
I mean, the last thing anybody wants to see is a club with the history of Derby County, the former champions of England, go out of business. But is it time that people need to take a reality check and start to accept that this might well happen unless something dramatic can happen pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think there needs to be some sort of compromise from all parties, really. Instead of statements, there needs to be some sort of agreement that they can just move on, just park it for a little bit, just save the club, because Derby County, as you say, one of the founder Football League members, huge club, massive stadium, brilliant training ground. The facilities, outside the Premier League, you won't find many better. The academy, so highly thought of. There's people at the club, who work in the offices. I mean, as we all know, football clubs aren't 3 o'clock on a Saturday. It's all the way through the week. The training ground, the offices. These people, they're worried about their livelihoods at the moment. This needs to be sorted. It's one of the biggest clubs in the country.
It's Carlisle capital at the moment. Where's Mike Ashley in all of this? Because his name was linked with it recently too.
Mike Ashley's very interested. I think there is a good chance he will make a bid in the next few days. If he hasn't already, I don't think he has. But he's very, very much interested. I think he's had talks with the administrators. He's got his own people who he's got in mind who he'd like to come in with if he was to complete a takeover. There's obviously the stadium. I mean, there's a lot of suggestion that the stadium interests him with it being owned by Mel Morris. So, maybe that appeals to him as well. I think people say he's got unfinished business because of what happened at Newcastle. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's another party as well, the Andrew Appleby, former chairman. They've been there all the time. I think they have made a few offers, maybe the proposals, maybe is a better word, but they're still hanging around in there. So the good thing is there's 3 parties very interested in buying Derby County, and I think that needs to be the big positive out of this at the moment.
John, thanks for the information tonight. Really appreciate you joining us.
Cheers, Darren.
That's John Percy from The Telegraph, who's been across this story, Glenn Murray, right from the very start. I mean, it's developing into a bigger story than I think we thought it might do, because you kind of get a situation where clubs get in trouble and it tends to get sorted out before this. But I'm not sure we've seen it on quite this scale for quite some time. And there's a genuine fear here that this could go all the way for Derby County. I mean, if you're a Derby supporter, if you've got a job there, I mean, I can't even begin to think how you're feeling at the moment. I mean, it's astonishing, really.
Yeah, it is. How a club that have been knocking on the Premier League for the past 7 years have found themselves in this situation, and it really is a mess. And I think the only thing that the Derby supporters can take away from the situation they're in is that the team's actually performing against all odds. They're showing resilience, they're showing togetherness, and they're actually representing. Because don't forget, a football team is not a business. I think we get bogged down with that a little bit too much at the moment, about making money, about everything, about selling shirts and all that. It's about representing your local community, and Derby Football Club at the moment are representing their city really, really well. When you strip it all back, I think Wayne Rooney's done an amazing job, and the players are shown some real spirit, which I'm sure the Derby supporters will be proud of.
Well, people talk about that playoff final being the biggest game in world football, certainly in terms of finance. They were in the final at Wembley 2019 with Frank Lampard as the manager against Aston Villa. We talked glowingly about where Aston Villa are at the start of the programme tonight, and you wonder what history would look like had Derby been victorious over those 90 minutes. And it just shows how critical it is and how quickly things can change in football. Glenn, thanks for being with us tonight. It's been fantastic. You're going to be with us on 5 Live Premier League Sunday, I think, alongside Connor for Crystal Palace against...
Yes, that's right, Fletch. But you've got away with one there, Fletch, because I wanted to ask you how you felt about it being a Nottingham Forest fan.
I'm extremely excited about tomorrow.
No,
Everything's good.
Not that, Fletch. About Derby's situation.
Oh, I'm just excited about tomorrow. I mean, like, I don't want to see any club go to the wall. I really don't. And I mean, I live down the A52. I live in Nottingham. I always have. They've always been my team's biggest rivals. But I hope somebody comes in, because the game tomorrow, the rivalry between the teams cannot go away. We can't lose Derby County, and that's coming from someone who's a Forest supporter. I think the majority of Forest fans feel exactly the same. Glenn, thanks for being with us tonight. Really enjoyed it.
Cheers, Fletch.
That's Glenn Murray, who was with us on the Friday Football Social. Straight back to Vicarage Road. They're about to kick off the second half. Karen alongside JP.
Thanks very much, Darren. Here we are then, as Mike Dean, the referee, just checks with the court official, his assistants, the 2 goalkeepers, and off we go. With Watford in their yellow shirts with the black hoops and the black socks and the yellow black shorts and the yellow socks, kicking from right to left in this second half. 0-0 at 1 or 2 moments. Cavaselli with a header that was saved. João Pedro jinking run, shot that was easily saved. At the other end, Norwich City have offered very, very little in terms of attacking football. They haven't had a shot that's caused any bother to Daniel Bachmann in that Norwich goal, absolutely at all. And Kayembe, one of the new boys for Watford, on the attack straight away, out towards Kucka tries to pass the ball down the line to King. It's the throw to Norwich City in their fluorescent change strip. But the Watford side is Bachmann in goal, Femenia, Kabasele, Samir Caetano and Hassan Kamara, and then in midfield Ede Kayembe, Tom Cleverley and Musa Sissoko, with up front João Pedro on the right, Dennis on the left and Josh King through the middle. Pedro's made a run to the edge of the Norwich penalty area, the ball is overstruck and through to Angus Gunn. Only a fifth appearance for him in goal. The Norwich lineup, Gunn then with Aarons, Hanley, Gibson and Williams. A midfield three now of Lise Malou, a midfield four I should say, Sargent on the right hand side, Lise Malou, McLean who came on as a substitute, and Rashitska with Pukki and Ida up front. And meanwhile it's Watford on the attack, the ball is pulled back to João Pedro on the edge of the penalty area after good work by Sissoko, just leaning off a little bit and he shot over, but it was a rasping drive.
Yeah, great run from Sissoko. Just bullied his way through, just nudged after, tried to tackle him, absolutely not. Gets in there, nice little tight turn, and then finds João Pedro, as you said, and nice rocketed left foot, but the shot was always rising and never really causing massive problem to Gunn. But I was just saying actually though, JP, that Dennis has now actually gone to the centre forward role, and actually Josh King has gone to the right hand side and João Pedro's on the left, so they keep chopping and changing his front three and rotating, and they feel like Dennis is the one to go now up top and see what Josh King can do from the right hand side.
When they played so very, very well here against, it has to be said, a very poor Manchester United side that day, and they won the game convincingly, they had King on the left hand side, so they do vary it, Watford this season. We've got a goal, Rangers against Stirling Albion in the Scottish Cup, and Connie McLaughlin.
It's the third goal for Rangers and the fifth goal for Cedric Itten. His first goal and his first start, incidentally, since coming back to Rangers from that unsuccessful loan move in Germany. Edging closer, Rangers after the fifth round of the Scottish Cup. It's Rangers 3, Stirling Albion 0.
Thanks very much, Connie. No goals here. 2.5 minutes played in the second half on 5 Live at the start of a very big weekend of live football for you. And the ball will be cleared away by the Watford keeper Bachmann. That's an awful clearance, just skied it up into the air, and it has to be cleared away by Kayembe. Shaven head, he's got a little tufty sort of a mohawk on, and he's got the white boots as he charges down on this near side and tries to regain possession for Watford, who've conceded a free kick. Hassan Kamara got too tight then on Aarons, who was going nowhere. It's a free kick. Aarons goes to take the free kick quickly. João Pedro hadn't retreated because he had no time to retreat. Referee just says, look, calm down, take the free kick. Again, it's no more than 6 inches in from the right-hand touchline, 12 yards inside the Watford half. Right-hand side, 3.5 minutes gone in the second half. Forward it goes to the edge of the penalty area, headed away back there by Samir Caetano, one of their new signings. I haven't mentioned him so far. Came from Udinese for £5 million. Links between the two clubs, of course, and he's been steady at the back for them again today. The ball is cleared by Watford, comes to McLean, Norwich's best player since he came on, into the penalty area, an aggressive run, he's kept the ball in play. Pukki is nearly there, he tries to turn away from his man and force a corner kick off Kabasele. Doesn't work, and it's just a goal kick. But lovely driving run there by Kenny McLean, Karen.
Yeah, straight away just bursting forward, committed, driving in there, and like I always say, people are scared to touch you when you're in the penalty area, and gets through and just trying to find Pukki, but just didn't fall to him, and then kind of cleared and ricocheted back off Pukki and out for a goal kick.
Really important game for both of these two clubs. Watford on the attack. João Pedro to the left-hand side, this new fullback Kamara advancing against Aarons, who won it, and then Kamara pulled him back. Let me remind you the situation at the bottom of the Premier League. Everton at 16th on 19 points from 19 games. Watford a position below them, 14 points from 19. Norwich 13 points from 21. Newcastle 12 points from 20. And Burnley 11 points from 17. You can't really gauge Burnley because they've got so many games in hand due to the COVID postponements, but Chris Wood has gone, and he had that clause, didn't he, that allowed him to go if someone came in with a big money move, went up to Newcastle United, and they are the bottom two at the moment, Newcastle and Burnley. I think there's goals in this Watford side, and we've seen precious few goals from Norwich on their away troubles. There are scorers in the division away, but Pukki has put pressure there on Kabasele and looks for the return ball into the box, played by McLean, just too far for him. He's kept it in with a rumbustious challenge, pulls it square, it's off the bar, It's bounced down from Sargent, and the goal is given. Well, he had to improvise in the middle to sort of reach for the cross, pulled back by Pukki. Mike Dean signals his watch, the beeper went off, it crossed the line, and Norwich are ahead of Watford.
Wow, what a finish from Sargent, by the way. The cross came into him, and he's kind of, the ball's behind him, and he sticks out his leg, and it comes off the back, and he's just trying to hook it in with his right foot, the outside of it, outside hook in, comes off the crossbar, as you said, but it's a brilliant finish. There is arguments that there was a foul that was won. Pukki won the ball back, and the same was a push on a defender, and that's how Pukki crossed it in, and that's where Sargent got the goal from. But the referee thought no foul, but it was brilliant from Norwich. They were pressing, they were aggressive. McLean, as you said, came on, won it, driving through. His pass wasn't great out to Pukki, he made something of it, and then puts in a great run, and no one's picking up Sargent. He runs in, goes in on the 6-yard line unopposed, and then that acrobatic finish.
Well, it is being checked by VAR for a possible foul by Teemu Pukki on Samir as he tried to guide the ball out of play, the Watford new signing. Pukki then cut it back, and Sargent with a sort of semi-scorpion kick in the middle. If you ever got your Scorcher and Score comic all those years ago, bit of a flintlock flick, you might remember him. VAR is checking this for a possible foul by Teemu Pukki. So the Norwich joy might be short-lived. What do you think, Karen, looking at the little screen here?
Well, in actual play, I actually thought it was a foul. That was my initial gut. But the referee felt nothing of it, and he's given it, and he's stuck with it.
Norwich lead, and the young man who has been so heavily criticised this season for his lack of goals, remember he's only 20, the boy from Missouri, scores the goal for Norwich, Josh Sargent. He was a decent goal scorer at Werder Bremen, if not spectacular, but that is a very important goal, and his first since he netted against Bournemouth back in August in the League Cup.
You know what, JP, I wonder, was the official, the referee was adamant, he didn't even go over and have a look at it, he was pretty convinced it wasn't, and the official was very, very close to it on the side as well and gave no foul, so they overran it. But now, what have you got? What response have you got now, Watford? How are you going to come back from this?
His first Premier League goal, and he had to improvise to score it, and it was a tidy finish, really was. Twisted his right heel back and flicked it in off the underside of the bar. 53 minutes gone. This would be a mighty, mighty win for Norwich, and they're not sitting back on it. Rashica to McLean, and try to force it through the middle. Now, one of the Watford defenders has gone down, Kabasele, holding his face there. The nearest man to him was Ida, but the referee said go on. Rashica tries to get it beyond the Watford right back on the far side from us there, left, and the ball is eventually clumped out so they can get some treatment on here to Kabasele.
It's been a clear shift since the second half. Dean Smith's gone and said to his Norwich team, you know what, get out there, be a bit more aggressive. And McLean's been the one that's front-footed with that, Pukki as well, Ida. It's definitely been a shift.
Well, as Kabasele went to clear the ball as he was running, so Ida came across his running line and there was contact, but there's no fault on the Norwich player. Kabasele took it around about low right-hand cheek, I think, but there was not a great deal in it for me whatsoever. Been so unfortunate, hasn't played since October. The DR Congo born Belgian international, made it or was in the squad at Euro 16. Career hasn't really kicked on in England as they thought it would when they signed him from Genk that summer. And I think he'll be okay after a little bit of treatment, but he's come towards this near touchline. USA, USA, USA is the call from the Norwich fans in celebration of young Josh Sargent and his goal. And if it proves to be the goal that eventually keeps them up, they'll be celebrating with the stars and stripes being unfurled, I would imagine, at Carrow Road for the boy from O'Fallon, Missouri, from the St. Louis Scott Gallagher Academy. Came to Europe with Werder Bremen. Watford try and get things going again. Sargent closes down on Sissoko. rolls away from him and plays the ball right-footed 10-15 yards across the centre of the field away towards the right-hand side. Now it's Kayembe, big expansive switch of play to João Pedro, who's been bright for Watford. Tries to flick it through two players, Sargent back covering with Aaron's. They are working really, really hard. This is the work rate, the ethic they were missing at the start of the season. When things went well, heads went down on stooped shoulders, heart went out of the side, and too often they accepted defeat too readily. Now Dean Smith has a different sort of Norwich for the second half of the season. Makes things very, very interesting down at the bottom.
They've got something to hold on for now though, JP. When you're 1-0 up, that confidence goes through you. They're a bit more, like I keep saying, they're putting Watford under pressure.
Here come Watford down the right-hand side. It's played in by Josh King, looking for Dennis, but back to cover comes Pierre-Louis Malou. He swivels and left-footed hoiks it up to the halfway line where Kucka tries to hold it up. He's done enough, and it's a throw to Norwich on that far side. The one-away win for them this season came at Brentford, but they've had very few reasons to cheer on their travels. Point at Newcastle United, and because they had those defeats at home to Tottenham, away at Tottenham, at home to Manchester United, at home to the Villa and away, and at home against Arsenal when they were thrashed 5-0, everyone said they got no chance. Then they won at Charlton in the Cup. Yes, they were beaten in that midweek game against West Ham United, which I think was harsh on both sides having to play that midweek game at that time. But the win against Charlton perked them up. The win against Everton has given them bounce, and they lead here at Watford on 5 Live from the BBC with 12 minutes gone in the second half by a goal to nil. Ball is stroked into Sissoko, holds it up, back to goal, swings a lovely ball away from right to left to João Pedro, 30 yards away, left-hand corner of the box, bends across him, Brandon Williams stoops to head it away, only as far as Kayembe. The ball slipped away from him, just perhaps beginning to labour a little bit now is Edo Kayembe in that midfield area in his second game for the club. Someone needs to bring the ball down. Game of aerial tennis developed. It's lobbed up again then by Lys Malou out towards the Norwich right-hand side, where Samir is judged to have fouled his man, who's stayed down below us, Milo Rashitska. And it'll be a free kick to Norwich City.
I must say, Lys Malou's impressed me tonight. Just, I know the first half he started with Sorensen and McLean came on quite early as well, but he's just so good in terms of his back line. Just high-fived him there, Gibson and Hanley, because he made that recovery run because he knew how dangerous it was for Watford on the attack, and he got in there and did the work that probably not everyone wants to do. He's been very impressive in possession as well, just kept it simple.
A change here for the home side. Kucka Hernandez has come on to replace Tom Cleverley 2 minutes shy of the hour. Attacking change then, the Colombian player has come on, can play in wide positions, can go through the middle. He's gone through the middle now with Dennis and João Pedro on the right hand side and King on the left, and it's an adventurous front four, but it leaves them open in other areas of the game. The wide players will have to drop back, tuck in, and I'm not too sure if João Pedro or indeed Josh King are those sort of players. We'll wait and see. The ball is launched long by Norwich, and underneath it, but a little bit hesitant, was Cabaselli. He swings the right foot at it, hoists it over his own shoulder, and then comes to meet the second ball and head it away to King, just shy of the halfway line. Back it goes to Femenia, right foot bending ball inside right channel, and across to scuttle and clear goes Ben Gibson. And Norwich have dealt with that adequately, and then they were a little bit hesitant, and Hanley had to rush to clear it to Sargent. Sargent crossing the field from left to right. It's a bright run from him. He nudges it forward, looking for Rashitska to get in behind Kiko Femenia, who stuck out a foot, the Spanish right back, and played it to his keeper. Backman's clearance not accepted by the front. Oh, we've got a floodlight problem. The floodlights have flickered and dipped, and Mike Dean's going to have to stop this. They haven't got out. We've certainly lost floodlight power. The floodlights in the corners of the ground look to be on half power to me. They are.
Sorry, everyone's getting their phone lights out.
Yeah, Graham Taylor's down. A few lower tier supporters have got their phones, and now they're spreading around the ground. An hour played, Watford 0, Norwich City 1, and the Norwich fans have got all their phone lights on now to add a little hand to the situation. We've got a delay in play on 5 Live as they try and sort out this situation.
Just thinking that Watford have gone.
Hey, I still miss Robot Wars.
Thank you very much. I don't know if you heard that. Fan saying he still misses Robot Wars. So do I. I missed the check, to be fair, Karen. There you are. Lovely programme to work on.
No, I was just saying now with Hernandez coming on, they've gone to a 4-4-2, Watford. Hernandez up top and Dennis was up there with him, and they'll go into a front four when they're in that attack, and there'll be a 4-4-2 in defence, but got to be a little bit more aggressive, because realistically, has Gunn done anything? I don't think he really has. Like, despite the possession, despite the threat, especially in the first half, they haven't really caused him any issues. And that's where they've got to get back now. They need a response. And look, you can say Norwich grown in confidence, and Sargent as well. He's driving, running away from players, chopping the ball. It's amazing what a goal or a win from last week can do to a side's confidence and individuals as well.
Just a reminder, you'll get all the reaction to this game on the Football Daily podcast, so make sure you subscribe to that on BBC Sounds. So much you can get on BBC Sounds, it's brilliant really. New episode dropping every morning into your inbox. And while you're on the Sounds app, you can check out the Fantasy 606 podcast with Alistair Bruce Ball, who's very, very good at fantasy football, Chris Sutton, who's very, very bad at fantasy football, and Statman Dave, to get the very best fantasy football knowledge. But as I say, expect that from ABB. Do not expect it from the big man from Chelsea and Blackburn and Celtic in Scotland. And I think he'll admit that himself, really. But 62 minutes gone. You'll have me for that, won't he, now, next time we work together. We've not got the lights going back on here, Karen, and Mike Dean is down there talking with the stadium official. Well, this will be horrible for Norwich if they can't continue and the game has to go. Could they continue in this light? Do you think it's half Floodlight power?
I don't think it's that bad. I mean, it's gone down. Obviously, it's not as bright as it was, but the players were playing on. They didn't seem to be too affected, so...
No. But the floodlight systems around the country this season are so fantastic compared to what they used to be. They've had to improve them all because of high resolution TV coverage. And this, by the way, the level of lights we've got now is about 25% better than the best was back in the late 60s, I can tell you. Some of the lights you saw at grounds are very ropey indeed, especially in cup competitions. But, I mean, you can still see the shadows stretching out from the players down there, but I don't think Mike Dean will be allowed to continue like this until we have an improvement. We'll wait and see. The players are all still out there, they haven't been taken off. You're listening to 5 Live, you're listening to a game of real importance at the bottom end of the Premier League, and Norwich lead it with a goal by Sargent, young player Josh Sargent, who improvised to flick it in. Yes, we have light. Well, one of the light away to our right, the light on the left-hand corner is gone on. There we go.
You're just as excited as the fans there, JP.
I am, yeah.
Love that.
Oh no, it's flickering again.
It's gone. No.
Oh.
It's like a disco in here tonight.
It is. It's like when
DJ,
I try.
The lights.
Yeah, it's like when my lights at home go off on the Christmas tree, and I try and mend them, and they flicker and flicker, go off again, come on, and I jubilantly dance around thinking I've solved it. I am the DIY expert of all time, and then 30 seconds later the lights go off, and that's it. I have to get a new set. Well, they're on the right, far side from us. Ooh. Here they come on the left. It's the first time I've ever had to commentate on Floodlights coming on. And it's staying on. It's on.
Oh no.
Left-hand side, 64 minutes gone. 1-0 Norwich. And the great excitement on 5 Live here is the steeple chase for Floodlights. So on the far side, we've got Floodlight number 1, the favourite for this one, and on the right hand side the underdog Floodlight number 2, and they're both off at the moment. I think the players are going to still warm up. Connie McLaughlin at Ibrox, rescue us.
Well, I can only rescue you in the respect that I've got some floodlights in the game that I'm watching here, so I'm pretty lucky in that respect. But speaking of casting shadows, Rangers are certainly doing that in this Scottish Cup game, 4th round of the Scottish Cup. Rangers are 3 goals to the good up against Stirling Albion. They're 37 places, Stirling Albion, behind Rangers. So you would kind of expect this. This isn't a game that Rangers were expected to lose. But as you know, with the Cup, you never quite know. At the moment, Albion kind of chasing shadows. Rangers knocking the ball about for fun, really. Long spells of possessions. Some 1-2s between Kemar Roof and John Lundstrom. And I think this is an opportunity for Giovanni van Bronckhorst just to test some things out. Some huge games coming up in the Scottish Premiership over the next couple of weeks, not including even more so than the one against Celtic on the 2nd of February. So I'm guessing he'll have one eye on that with some of the players that he's using this evening. But Rangers comfortable, 3 goals to the good in the Scottish Cup 4th round against Stirling Albion.
Thank you very much. I make we've had about a 4-minute delay here. Still the floodlight pylons in corners of the ground, 4 corners are only on half power. Just a reminder, it's not just the football we've got this weekend for you. From tomorrow morning at 3 a.m, hang on a minute, getting an announcement here.
To get the issue resolved and the game underway as soon as possible.
Until the floodlight issue is resolved, we can't carry on, but they're going to try and get the game going as soon as possible. Yeah, from tomorrow morning at 3 o'clock on Sports Extra, it's the second T20 of the Women's Ashes down under, and then from 6:30 a.m. it's all eyes on Dan Evans in the tennis at the Australian Open. Well, let's bring in a man who's quite often left me in the dark on our travels around the world and perplexed. Anyway, Fletch, what do you make of this?
I was hoping for more commentary on the steeplechase. I was really enjoying that.
And me, I wanted to see who's coming up next.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's an unlikely outsider in the lights steeplechase. There's a red blinking light on top of the chimney in the hospital, and I'd say that's a possible outsider in this race for glory in the light steeplechase at Vicarage Road, Fletch.
Yeah, 4 blinking lights that are a problem at the moment, Jonathan. What I can say is, from what I understand, the mains power has been lost, and there is usually a generator that then instantly kicks back in, but for some reason it's not igniting properly, so hence why you've had the floodlights on and then off again. And until they sort that problem out, they're going to have to be in this holding pattern as they are at the moment. I mean, let's just have a conversation about the goal, shall we, before we talk about any issues with lights. I mean, that's got to be goal of the season, hasn't it, Josh Sargent?
Brilliant finish, wasn't it? Lovely improvised finish with the outside of his right boot. Lovely, you know, and also credit to Pukki. They thought it might have been a foul, but the way he persisted, chased down the defender, got the ball into the middle. Norwich haven't had too many chances to celebrate goals away from home, Darren, have they? And that was a lovely one to relish that.
What I would say, Karen, it was an awful cross from Pukki, wasn't it? I mean, if he doesn't finish it like that, they waste a glorious opportunity.
He absolutely zinged it in at him, didn't he? And it was behind him, and credit to Sargent, the technique that he had, because it's a really difficult, execution that he got, and it was you kind of, even as a neutral, you wanted it to go in because it was that good of a cheeky finish, and credit to him, and luckily it did. But yeah, you're right, they were just more aggressive, Norwich, and even that Pukki getting there, winning it back when it wasn't a great ball out to him, making something out of nothing, and then they've probably been a better side, definitely the second half, and I don't think Watford have come out, and they just seem to be a bit more, well, as JP would say, slow at the races, I guess.
Yeah, if you're down there as a player, Karen, in this situation, and you get a break like this just after a huge goal has been scored like that for Norwich, would this favour the Norwich players or the Watford players?
I'd probably say the Watford players. They just came on and made a sub, and I think when it broke, Hanley was straight over saying, "Oh, can we play on? Can we play on?" Because he knew they kind of had Watford a little bit rattled and they'd stopped their rhythm. But you just see now Ranieri's talking, he's getting information across, so they've got time to regroup, refocus again. So I think it would favour Watford more than Norwich.
Got to say, JP, in all the years I've been in football grounds watching matches, I've never had one abandoned because of floodlight failure. Have you ever been in there when this kind of thing's happened and they've not been able to put it right?
I remember a World Cup playoff between Australia and one of the South American nations when the lights went off at half-time, and I was told, it was working for the satellite TV station, I was told to carry on commentary. It was pitch black, couldn't see a thing, and they kept shouting in my ear, carry on commentating. I couldn't see anything. So how we were supposed to do it, I don't know. I think that one was abandoned. Mike Dean, by the way, is down talking to Ranieri on the touchline. The Premier League match manager is down there with. He's been involved in these discussions. One of the assistant referees is there as well, and I think Mike Dean is possibly putting a time span on. He should do, Karen, shouldn't he? Because the players can't go on like this without knowing what's going to happen. Are we going to restart here with the floodlights half on?
I think he's asking the goalkeepers, are they happy to play on, maybe given the lights? I don't know, and yeah. I think he seems good to go.
I was watching that, and He'd got the two captains there as well, Grant Hanley and Moussa Sissoko. He was talking for a long time. The end of it, he said, "Are you happy?" So I think he's come up with some kind of compromise at the moment, and he's just checking and making sure that everybody's okay with that. It wouldn't surprise me here if you get back underway relatively quickly.
Yeah, I think we're going to get going any moment now. Well, the clock away at the Rickery end says 70 minutes and 50 seconds have elapsed, but we're well short of that. I'm not too sure how long the delay was. If you've got any information about there, Fletch, you might give it to us. Meanwhile, Connie McLaughlin, you've got a goal up there at Ibrox.
I do, a fourth for Rangers and the first of the evening for Fashion Sakala. He took it really well on his right foot. He just sort of side-footed it past the Stirling Albion goalkeeper. He found some space on the left-hand side. Still a bit of work to do, to be fair to him, and he just sort of rolled it into the back of the net. So Rangers comfortable in this one. They know that they've got that opportunity now to get into the draw for the 5th round of the William Hill Scottish Cup, and it is Rangers 4, Stirling Albion 0.
And we're back playing here, and we're back with Norwich on the attack. Rashitska, low ball into the Watford penalty, has zipped on through. Bright start after the delay by Norwich. That's important, I think, Karen, that they came right on the front foot straight away after the delay. But Watford have it back with Sissoko to the right touchline. Kiko Femenia. The floodlights are at half power. We've had 11 minutes of delay here at Vicarage Road because of the floodlight failure. And as I said, the lighting, if you go back 20-30 years, isn't anywhere near as bad as it was back in the day. But for these football players these days, how long would it take them to readjust to this sort of level of lighting, Karen?
Oh, look, they're already back out there. And you know what, I played with a player that actually complained it was too bright. They were a wide player, and sometimes the lights were too bright for them. So that was an interesting one, but look, they're professionals, they're getting on with it, no problem.
A little bit of a stumbled clearance though by Christian Cabaselli. Can't say he lost it in the lights because it was a low ball raking sort of a pass that may have bounced awkwardly for a player who might be showing signs of rustiness in his first start in 3 months. So it's a throw to Norwich City, who lead by a goal to 0. The goal by Josh Sargent early in this second half. If you get a chance to watch it again, then I would suggest you do. Match of the day tomorrow night, of course, on BBC television. We'll have highlights of this game, and I expect you'll be able to see it on Football Focus as well tomorrow. But in comes a cross from the Norwich left by Rosicka, and Sargent attacks it. He's got a header. It's a brilliant header. It's an outstanding header. A lovely cross in from Rosicka on the left-hand side. Boy, he had to climb for that, and he rose above a statuesque Watford defence and headed Norwich City 2-0 to the good. It's only the 3rd time this season they have scored the opening goal of the game. On both previous occasions they went on to win the game. It's only the 5th time in 46 top-flight games they have scored 2 or more in a match.
Okay, it's brilliantly worked down the left-hand side, and as you said, he came to Rashika and he delivered a fantastic ball. There might be, though, a call for offside. Just going to have to wait and see. But the ball in, he did a nice little bit of magic. Rashika got to the byline and put it in there, and what he did is he hung it up 8 yards out, and it just gave Sargent the time, A, to get there, and B, to get up and rise, because he's such a tall physical player. He's got height stature on him, and he just gets up and climbs and gets enough connection on it, and he's put it into the far corner. And
it's been checked for offside. The green line's been drawn across the pitch. I think the Rashitska was offside as he turned against Kiko Femenia. The ball was played forward to him, and the goal stands after a VAR check. It's 2-0 to Norwich, and they got on with that decision fairly quickly. It was right that they checked it, and from a cursory glance at this little screen we have with us here, it was right that they gave the goal.
Again, it was a brilliant ball in and a great header, and just the confidence in Norwich, and the tempo has changed, the pressing's changed, and Sargent looks like a new player in his new window maybe.
Norwich would climb 2 points above Watford in the table if they hold on to this. They look for Sargent again, but the ball had too much pace from Aarons into the penalty on the right hand side. The Norwich fans are absolutely jubilant away to the right hand side, jumping up and down at the Vicarage Road end, and you can understand why, the importance of this. Yes, Watford would still have a couple of games in hand on them, and Burnley down at the bottom certainly, and Newcastle would have a couple of games in hand, but This is a terrific scoreline at the moment as Connie McLaughlin give us full time from Ibrox.
Rangers are in the draw for the 5th round of the Scottish Cup after a convincing performance. It was 18-year-old Alex Lowry who opened the scoring on his debut and making a bit of history for himself there. James Tavernier made it 2 from the penalty spot but failed to convert another one just a couple minutes later. Cedric Ittid grabbed the 3rd in the second half, and Fashion Sakala wrapped things up with 4 minutes to go. Job done, Rangers 4, Stirling Albion 0.
Thank you very much. 2-0 to Norwich here. Mike Dean, the referee, by the way, we're told, asked both managers if they were happy to continue with this light. They said yes. We saw him ask both captains. He then certainly approached one of the goalkeepers, Bachmann, and they all seem to want to carry on, and why not? It's fine. It's fine to play in this light, I think. And here's King for Watford on the right-hand side. Well, they need some comeback here now. They need a Manchester United at home performance. They don't need this sort of befuddled performance they've got today, as Dennis slips the ball down their left-hand side and looks for João Pedro. Pressurised, holds the ball tight under control, gets the ball whipped into the penalty area, far side, and Williams misjudges his header away. Sargent does well though for Norwich on the right-hand side of the defence, headed it out, and Watford would look to build again. Here is Kayemba.
JP, I don't understand. So the ball's gone in. I don't understand why they put King out on that right hand side. It hasn't worked since he's gone out there. It was totally fine with Ennis and João Pedro getting 1v1s at the fullbacks of Norwich. So I don't understand why he did that.
Dennis is sent off, Karen.
Wow.
He left the foot in on a challenge down below us with Aarons, and the Watford players looked dismayed. The Norwich players immediately went to Mike Dean, the referee, who I think checked that he had put Dennis in the first half, and he is sent off. This is a huge blow for Watford and Claudio Ranieri, and let me remind you, we are about to enter an international break weekend. Sacking time for managers at this stage of the year, and he has a poor record as the Watford manager, we have to say. We're seeing a replay. Dennis, I'm not too sure how much contact was there, but the tackle was late, the boot was raised high, came down, did catch Aarons on the bottom of the boot, second yellow, off he's got.
I think he's just tried to block, stick out a leg and block it being cleared, and he's just caught Max Aarons and he's finding himself.
Well, we've just seen a replay here of his booking in the first half where we felt he was unfortunate to be booked, and at least Malou was the offender on that occasion.
Yep, completely agree. I thought wrong yellow card in the first one, and maybe that one was a little bit harsh, maybe, JP?
Here's Sargent on a hat-trick outside the penalty area, drives, deflects off Cabaselli, and Norwich have a corner kick. I think it's their first of the game. It's on the left-hand side, and Watford are wobbling, and for their fans, very worrying.
Heads down, confidence not there. Earlier on I just saw, I think João Pedro, he kind of threw his arms in the air when attack didn't happen, but just before the sending off. But contrary to Norwich though, Sargent's like a man possessed for him.
Do Watford think long and hard about Claudio Ranieri's situation after this game if it stays like this? The corner is hoiked towards the far post. Hanley is there, twisted his head, headed wide, but he won it in the air too comfortably for Watford comfort.
Yeah, he got up really, really well. Might have used the defender camera there to get above it, but got up there, got the header, but it was just glancing too wide. Just trying to see. Thought the referee had done something there, but again, you're just thinking, what's the response now of Watford? They're still going with the 3 up top.
And the referee's just stopped it here. Oh, he got a shout from VAR to see if the challenge was fair. It was. Not too sure why we stopped that at all. We don't have a communication with the VAR here. We can't hear what they're saying. Sometimes we can, tonight we can't. Now it's a free kick to Watford. Just inside the Norwich half. They trail by 2 goals to 0. It's about 10 yards in from the left-hand touchline. And the home side needs something very, very quickly now. 7 defeats in 8, 13 defeats in 19 league games. The free kick will be taken by Edo Kayembe there. £4.7 million signing for Luton. Into the box it goes. Sargent calls for the keeper to come out. Hasn't come out, and it needs to be headed off the line there. Kucka as the goalkeeper hesitated, headed it goal side. He's now had a good shot on the half turn, but the goalkeeper parries and gets it away. Well, Watford very nearly back into the game, and Norwich very nearly gave them a route back into it. They've now cleared it away with Gibson on the edge of his own penalty to get it out. A rising clearance is headed forward again by one of the Watford midfield players. In fact, it was Cabaselli forward who pushed it more dangerously again into the Watford half. But they have it back again now, Watford, just inside their own half with Sissoko, backward of square. Here's Kamara, angles a diagonal ball out towards Kucka Hernandez, attacking down the left-hand flank, plays it into João Pedro. Kucka Hernandez picks it up again, tried a little back heel, now finds João Pedro, much better from Watford, and the corner goes off Aarons for a corner ball now. The cross goes off Aarons for a corner ball to Watford. Much better for them, Karen.
Yeah, but they're playing with their width and their wide players. They're the best players, and they're getting in those 1v1s, and that's what they should have done in the second half. And I don't understand why he chopped and changed it up front, and now you lose Dennis as well. But we've got a corner now. Can they get back in it?
In comes across towards the far post, and a big aerial challenge in there. Comes to nothing. The ball goes all the way through. I think the challenge was by Sammy. I didn't make contact, might have committed a foul. But going back to that error of judgment at the back by Norwich, Sargent, the goalkeeper, misunderstanding, and it was headed forward by Kucka Hernandez and just cleared away off the line. And then the goalkeeper's made a good reaction save from the second Hernandez effort.
Yeah, the second save was good because there was a lot of people in front of him, and he had to rectify the mistake between him and Sargent running goal. It's just a lack of communication. Neither of them dealt with it, and then they just kind of got in, and that's where the opportunity came from. But got themselves out of it.
The clock says 82 minutes gone, but we're not that deep into the game. 11-minute delay for Floodlight failure. Here's Aarons. Up then to his centre-back, the experienced Grant Hanley, and all the way to the keeper, Angus Gunn. Clears away to the left-hand side. Williams quickly challenged, so it's going to be a throw in to Norwich. How can they manage this lead now? Can they get back-to-back Premier League victories? They've only won 3 of their last 29 away league games on a Friday night. Hasn't suited them starting the weekend away from home. Kucka chasing back of his own half, can't redeem possession. Watford looked to knock it in behind Gibson to King. Was Gibson pulling back on King? In comes his cross. Grant Handy diving header finds Williams. That's a good clearance away towards the left-hand side. Mashitska still deep inside his own half, has ruined it all with a poor ball out, collected by Kayembe. He pushes it forward towards João Pedro. I think he's been probably the liveliest, most technically gifted of the Watford players tonight. He's made a run out towards the left-hand side to receive the ball from Kayembe. João Pedro trying to get between 3 Norwich players. Contact might have been there, but he went down too theatrically, and Norwich can clear away towards Ida, who's tripped his man, and that will be a free kick as Samir Caetano picks himself up. A little bit of a knocking of feet together. It's a free kick.
Coming off number 14, that's Kamara.
And camera coming off for Watford, and he's being replaced by Ken Sema, who has been up and down with Watford in recent seasons. The Swedish international comes on then, left-hand side, wide man, forward player really, but can play as a left wing back, and on he comes then on this near side.
Yeah, he's just slotted in at left back, and they'll just say to him, look, we need you to be a left winger, don't worry about it. We're going to have to go for it a little bit more, and in front of him is Hernandez now on the left-hand side, and João Pedro's gone in the 9, and King's still on the right-hand side in attack.
But Norwich have the ball, and they're inside the Watford half, and they lead by 2-0. Gibson, actually unworried, it has to be said, at the back today. Sargent, fed by Lys Malouz, had a good game for Norwich, the heart of their midfield. He's there again to angle the ball quickly away towards Sargent, keep it moving very, very quickly. Been a key for Norwich in this second half. Goes up towards Kucka, surely he's fouled there. He's wrestled it back the way of Rashica. He's trying to control the ball while almost stumbling inside the box. Now does stumble and go down, but surprised the referee didn't give a free kick for the challenge on Timu Puke, and Watford will break from that. They have possession on the halfway line. King going forward. He's got a runner in Sissoko out to the right-hand side into Kucka Hernandez. Now João Pedro is found outside the box. Bends in a shot, but dipping too late over the bar. Good move.
Yeah, very good counter-attacking football. Quick, energetic, 1 touch, 2 touch. Wins it out. King then pops it into Hernandez. pulls it out then to João Pedro on his left hand side. He just straight away, one touch, knows what he wants to do, trying to bend it. Got a good pace on it, but was just going over the bar. I think Gunn had it covered, and it was quite central as well. That's the counter-attacking threat they have, even with 10 players.
Norwich are going to make a substitution. Sam Byram's going to come on for Norwich City. So badly hit by injuries at the club, and he'll replace Timo Pukki. So it's a defender coming on for an attacker. He was out from February of 2020 until December of 2021 after a thigh operation. Sam Byram, only his 5th appearance of this campaign, and he'll be replacing Timo Pukki, former Leeds United youngster, went to West Ham United, really worked for him then, and Norwich paid £750,000. I know that the Leeds Academy worked very hard on him. I know you'll have heard Lucy Ward on the TV and radio. She was at Leeds at the time. Always spoke very, very highly of young Sam when he was there. Terrific Leeds Academy at that stage. Very, very good. Neil Redfern played a major role in the development of young players up there as well at Leeds United. Now, Byram is on, and Watford having to come from behind by 2-0. Tomorrow we've got Manchester United against West Ham for you with Ian Dennis and Mark Lawrenson at 3 o'clock. Right now we have Norwich on the attack again down the left-hand side. Reshitska, Ida is in the middle. Sargent holding deep now on a hat-trick. The ball is flicked away from him though by Ken Sema, who now tries to win it back for Watford at the second attempt, but as he does so and stabs it forward, there's not a yellow shirt within 20 yards of Big Grant Hanley.
I was just looking at the stats there, JP, in this time period that's gone. Has been for Watford 11 goal attempts, only 4 on target. In the second half, only 3 shots, 2 on target.
Don't forget, Watford down to 10 men with the sending off of Dennis for a second bookable foul. Emmanuel Dennis, he will be badly missed. 7 goals he has this season. They've got goals in Pedro, they've got goals in King. Kucka Hernandez hasn't scored enough for them, but they will badly miss him, that's for sure. They're going to make another substitution, Watford, at any moment now. And they are chasing this game, and it is a hugely vital game. Jure Kucka is going to come on for them, midfield player, Czech Republic, born Slovakian international. And on he will come now. So Watford making another change. Off goes Femenia, and on comes Kucka. And he's a midfield player. Off goes Femenia, who's had his ups and downs as a Watford player, trudges around the far side of the pitch, looks up at the Watford fans behind that goal, and it's a bit of a weary trudge. They're really up against it here as they look for Kucka Hernandez, trying to bustle away from the attentions of Arons in the right full-back position for Norwich. Sissoko back again then towards Hernandez, plays into the feet of João Pedro, takes it again 5 yards outside the penalty, clips a little ball, Hanley reads and gets away, and Sargent rather buffered it into Hernandez, but the referee's close up, says play on. Watford have possession. Giant clock at the Rookery end of the ground away to our left shows us into the last minute, but we have of course plenty of time due to the 11-minute delay due to floodlight failure. Sema for Watford has a chance to cross, didn't cross, takes on Sargent on the outside, now flashes in a cross towards the far post. There was a little push there. Reshitska, the Watford fans bay for a penalty, the referee's having none of it. Sissoko collects the ball to Pedro, 5 yards outside the penalty, looks for the left touchline. Sema, Sargent's in front of him again, pulls it back to João Pedro, looks to get the cross in behind the back. Kucka arriving, that's a lovely goal. That is a lovely goal, but it won't count because the flag is raised for offside.
It's a brilliant goal, like you said. I just wonder, Sissoko had left it, would Kucka would have been onside, coming in the back post, would have scored it. It's a brilliant bit of finish though from Sissoko. The cross comes in and he's kind of like swiveled on the turn and then volleyed it in on his right foot. It's a deep cross that came in, he's just offside by a yard, right decision. It's a lovely finish though.
Brilliant finish.
I do think he'd have left it though, JP. I think Kucka would have been onside and would have side-footed that in, and I think the same outcome of hitting the back of the net would have been the one.
Kucka was coming in, but it wasn't he who flashed the ball into the back of the net. The great roar you heard was for the Floodlights coming on at full power. And Norwich remained 2 to the good. Had he left it, Karen, Kucka was arriving. I thought it was he who'd scored it, actually. But there was the touch in the middle. Now Byram for Norwich. On the right back position. We're into the 15 minutes then of stoppage time. For Floodlight failure, for the sending off, for the goals. And we will stay with the action on 5 Live. Throw to Norwich. Aarons will take it. Thought about throwing, stumbled forward. Would have been a foul throw, goes back, throws forward then. Aarons to Byron, gets it into the penalty area. Ida turns it into the middle, it's an own goal, and Norwich are 3-0 up. Norwich are 3-0 up. The ball deflected in off Juraj Kucka, and what a miserable introduction to the game for him. Played a part in the goal that was disallowed, and now beats his own goalkeeper. And it's Watford 0, Norwich 3 in a game of such importance at the bottom of the Premier League. And Claudio Ranieri down below us bites his lip and looks out, and you can only wonder about his future at this football club.
Look, it's coming from a throw-in, just simple setup. Throw into Max Aarons, gets it back off the throw-in, and he puts a lovely cheeky ball into Ida. He's going away from goal, it's difficult, he's having to stretch to keep it in, and he pulls it back on the 6-yard line. There's no one really around Kucka or anyone that's going to come in, I think, and really get a tap in, and he just puts his leg out 3 yards out. He just takes it away from Backman, and it's an own goal, and it's 3-0. But again, just simple from Norwich. Throw in, set back, get to the byline, cross in, own goal. And it's just naive from Watford. And you look at Dean Smith now on the side, he's absolutely ecstatic with his second half performance.
He pirouetted, he jumped into the air with delight, he clenched his fist, and Watford fans are leaving in their droves. I can see them pouring out of the Graham Taylor stand opposite me, and there's a wry and rather resigned look on the face of Claudio Ranieri. There were boos as well from some Watford fans. Sacked in the morning, that's the cry from the Norwich fans, cruelly taunting Claudio Ranieri, who's such an affable man, and he's a lovely man to talk about football with, but results mean everything in this game, and this would be 8 defeats in 9, 14 league defeats. No one has recovered from those sort of results in the Premier League and stayed up. And this is a football club, of course, that is not known for its patience with its managers. They might get something here, they don't. Sissoko shoulder to shoulder with Hanley, and nothing given. Ranieri, their 14th manager in 10 years. Far too many turnover of players here over the years, far too many. But it is their business model, it's the way it's worked for them. Up and down, up and down, and who knows what might happen. It wasn't a can't lose game, it wasn't a must win game, but it was a huge game. It has been a huge night.
I think it's the manner as well though, JP. You know, I don't know what's happened to them in the second half, and yes, you have to give credit to Norwich, they came out more aggressive, but you should be standing up to that, knowing the circumstance that you're in, Watford, and knowing how big this game is.
But Watford on the attack now, cross towards the far post area. King was in there battling away, Kucka had gone forward, couldn't get there. 3 away goals scored by Norwich City this season, until they came to Vicarage Road and doubled that tally. It's a cruel scoreline illuminated on that big screen, and Ranieri still hands folded across his chest down below us. Can't quite believe what has happened. There's going to be a substitution here now for Norwich City, and they're going to remove Milo Rashica and replace him with let's see who's coming on for them. It's Przemysław Płaszczak, the Polish international, who will come on. Played at the Euros only briefly. He had a cameo role against Sweden, I seem to remember. They featured in their last 6 games now for Norwich. They signed him in the summer of 2020. Played a role during the promotion campaign, but not really this season. Signed from Śląsk Wrocław in Polish football. A wide player, and he's gone away on the far side with his slate grey boots and fair hair drawn back in a little sort of a tiny ponytail thing up to the edge of the penalty area. You know, you can tell I don't know my hair fashions. And there he is on the far side, he's giving it away. Bouchetska, and the King will drive from the edge of the box, and he's not too far wide of the far post.
And then just there, Bouchetska's just come on, and he's not the speed. A few of the players said to him, look, don't worry about it, but just gave it away in an untidy area, and Josh King quick onto it. As a long range shot, it's going wide. No, doesn't really cause Gun any problems.
I thought Grosicka did well for them at times, Norwich.
He did. He travelled with the ball. He was crafty. He was nimble. And I think he does protect and give confidence to Brandon Williams, and that's important for Williams, because I think he's a confidence player, and he's going into the game, especially as the second half's gone on, and I think Rashica's very, very keen to that, and you can't argue about the delivery then for the goal for Sargent. It's a brilliant ball. That's what you want from your wide players, goals and assists, and he stepped up with that tonight with an assist.
Only the 5th time in 46 top flight games they've scored more than one in a match, and they've rattled in 3 with a helping hand. Can Watford get anything out of it? Here's King. This is a bitter pill for them to swallow. Kayembe. They'd worked so hard at Newcastle to get the draw at the weekend. Kucka Hernandez from range, dipping, hits the top of the bar. It really has not been their night.
Wow. I thought at first that was going well over, but it's one of them where he's absolutely hit it on that sweet spot, and it's just dipped at the last minute, and you're seeing Gunn scrambling, he's worried. 35 yards out, right-footed shot, a lot of pace on it, like I said, and he just dipped and hit the top of the crossbar. And as you said, it's just not their night. Hit the crossbar and went out for a goal kick, but good effort though from Hernandez.
An own goal. They were protest about the validity of certainly the first Norwich goal. I believe that was a free kick. VAR checked it, and Mike Dean stuck with his original decision. But does the 3-0 scoreline flatter Norwich?
I'd probably say it would, if I'm honest. I just think though they've been clinical and ruthless, and that's something I'm not familiar in saying in Norwich, and I think that's fair. But credit to them, they've had a little bit of luck, but they've took it. And I do think the second half performance was so good. The first 10-15 minutes, they really showed, right, we're going to try and stay in this league, we want it more than you, and just pressed and were more aggressive, and Watford just kind of fell away from it, and I haven't seen them step up since. And the sending off, you said the look as well, I'm a bit dubious about how Lise Malou got away with it, and Dennis got that first yellow.
Dean Smith's 200th win as a manager, and Watford are on the attack trying to get some sort of consolation. 554 games, 200 wins for the Aston Villa manager, the Norwich City manager. Lost his job at the Villa so long as a Walsall manager. Brentford, he did so well. Villa got them up, got them to the League Cup final, ran out of steam. This is his most important victory as the Norwich manager. Or would you say the Everton victory was the most important?
I'd say this one, because it keeps the run going. You know, you could say Everton, and especially against Watford, but equally Everton are in the mix as well. But this one's, I think he'll enjoy this one very much so.
And it's huge. It takes them out of that bottom 3, and they've languished there all campaign, and no one has given them a chance. Now everyone is saying it's 3 from 4. I'm not too sure it is, you know. I think there could be another twist.
What are you thinking, JP?
Well, Everton are in a mess, and tomorrow is vital for them. If they win, and Big Duncan can have an effect on them, they could pull closer away. Leeds United are far from safe. Brentford are not safe. You've got Southampton, who can't string a series of results. I think all those clubs only need 7-8 points really, but can they get them? The probability is that it will be 3 from 4. That's the probability. I'm just not too sure. What do you think?
You're spot on, but I think this is a massive result for Norwich now. I think you're right. It just pulls Everton under a little bit more pressure tomorrow. It's making it very exciting. You know, the top half, we know that City potentially running away with it, so it makes it good for everyone involved. Maybe not the fans that support their respective team down there, but it makes it certainly really, really interesting at the bottom, and the top 4 finish as well.
Well, they go to Wolves in the Cup after this, and then they have Crystal Palace at home. Norwich, Watford on the attack, ball into the penalty area. Kucka tries to find King in the middle. As for Watford, well, their next games are West Ham in the league, West Ham United away, Brighton at home, and the Villa away. They're not easy fixtures when all of a sudden your revival spirit is dampened by a performance like this.
Yeah. Some interesting questions maybe posed after this game. You know, brought players in to try and get a defence, be a bit more solid, have that block that Ranieri was after. He alluded to that in his interview, but find yourself losing 3-0 to Norwich. We're not exactly high-flying scorers. Some questions might be asked.
2 goals came from crosses from the same sort of area when Norwich didn't give up the cause, and Watford rather did, on the sort of right-hand side of the penalty area. Anyway, the home side has it now with Samir Caetano, one of those players brought in, as Karen was saying. Here's João Pedro, who has been lively, can hold his head up high, needed help, needed communication. Sargent nicked it off his toes, now looks for it down the right-hand side. Byron bent a lovely ball out to him, and Sargent can attack that Watford back 4. But he's no way through from, so he channels back up the line, uses Aarons into Byron, who lost possession. Sissoko now. Full of work for Watford in that midfield. You come to expect that with Moussa Sissoko. But have they got enough guile in there? There is goals in the team, but they continue to ship at the back. Here's Samo with a cross that deflects off Aarons. Still no clean sheet for for Watford this season. And that is the worst record of all 92 clubs in the top 4 divisions. Corner kick taken quickly by Cucho Hernandez. Gets the ball returned to him. Right foot bending cross, low, deflects off Sargent. And now it can be brought away here with Buschetta over the halfway line with a determined run here. Carries it deep inside Watford territory. Turns it square to Ida. Couldn't control the ball and it runs away. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Watford players were walking back.
That's what I was just looking at. The fans were fuming and booing that there, that yes, it come from their corner, but why were Norwich going forward with 3 or 4 players in attack and Watford players jogging back when you're 3-0 down at home in a relegation battle? Can't be jogging. I know the game is effectively over, but you've got standards, you've got to fight for that badge, and fans made sure they were heard there with their feelings.
Hernandez leaves it for João Pedro, tucks infield to Sissoko, halfway line. He's fouled by Byron. Free kick here then for Watford, who are playing for crumbs now, that's all.
It's weird, as a player I'd be looking at the clock how long's left, but I can't work it out because it's 90 plus 15.
Well, I think we've got a minute to go, just over a minute to go now. We've had 13 and 3/4 minutes of stoppage time. There's only one team in yellow, I think the Norwich fans are singing. They're not in yellow tonight, they're in this fluorescent garb. And it's Watford in the yellow who come forward again now over the halfway line. Samir Caetano, the signing for Udinese. Now João Pedro, central midfield, pushes the ball square to his right, takes it back in step of the left, quickly onto his right foot, slots it into Sissoko, who loses possession, and Brandon Williams with a big charge downfield is dumped to the ground by Sissoko. Watford's cause not helped by the sending off of Dennis for 2 bookable offences. Went off shortly after the hour.
You know what though, JP, I think I agree that was a factor, but I think they were always on a downward spiral anyway. I don't think they came out in the same manner they did in the first half, where they looked in control, dominated. So even before that I felt something was a bit off with them, and they weren't really matching Norwich's intensity and pressing game.
Well, a massive win for Norwich here. A massive win. The full-time whistle blows. Sargent with a lovely goal 6 minutes into the second half. He got a second 16 from time, but we had a long delay for Floodlight failure, 11 minutes. And then Kucka came on, inadvertently cost Watford a goal by straying into an offside position and then beat his own goalkeeper in stoppage time. We've got a transgressor on the pitch, quickly dealt with by stewards. A rotten night for Watford. You can only now think about the future that lies ahead for Claudio Ranieri. But for Norwich City, onwards and upwards it would seem, Karen, boosted now by successive victories.
Yeah, 2 back-to-back Premier League wins. Good performance, second half really good. First half they saw it out. Yeah, it was difficult at times, so we're getting done down the sides, but what they did was they protected their goalkeeper and a clean sheet mentality, and then had a bit of luck throughout the game, no question, but we give them moments and they were clinical with it. And Dean Smith now clapping, massive fan base that has travelled to this game from Norwich today, and fair play, I think it was a good performance. But Watford, we're in control first half. I don't think they threatened the goalkeeper, but they're in control, and in the second half, completely different team and just capitulated and fell apart, and terrible second half performance, and it was really bad.
Well, 2 goals were very fine. They were helped by an own goal, but you know what, Fletch, 2 out of 3 ain't bad on this sad day with the passing of Meatloaf, but a very good performance and 3 points for Norwich.
Jonathan, Karen, thank you very much tonight. Safe journey home. So that's Norwich City with back-to-back wins in the Premier League, out of the bottom 3, and Dean Smith can celebrate 200 wins as a manager in style tonight. More reaction to this match in the Football Daily podcast. The live football returns tomorrow with Manchester United versus West Ham with Ian Dennis at 3 o'clock, and on 5 Live Premier League Sunday, Crystal Palace followed by Chelsea against Tottenham. You can hear all that on the BBC Sounds app, where you can pause and rewind it if you miss any of the action. And the Australian Open continues in the morning. The last Brit standing, Dan Evans, looking to make it through to the 4th round. Commentary starts on the BBC Sport website and app from around 6 o'clock. Thanks for your company tonight on the Friday Football Social. Stephen Nolan's up next, slightly later than expected due to the delay in the football. But first, here's the 5 Live News.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
With the 5 Live News, I'm Sean DaCosta. A detective with the Metropolitan Police has been jailed for 3 years for secretly filming models after setting up fake photo shoots. Neil Corbell, who's 40, used cameras hidden in hotel rooms and flats in London, Manchester and Brighton to spy on women as they undressed and prepared to pose for him. He admitted 19 counts of voyeurism. Stars including Cher, Brian May and Bonnie Tyler have paid tribute to Meatloaf, who has died aged 74. He sold millions of albums worldwide, and his record Bat Out of Hell remains one of the best-selling releases of all time. The Daily Telegraph's chief music critic, Neil McCormick, says Meatloaf was an impressive character.
He didn't look like a rock star of the time at all. You know, he was a big, sweaty guy, and he had an operatic voice rather than a sort of gruff rock and roll voice, a big sound, and then these giant songs, almost ludicrous Wagnerian rock and roll songs about, you know, sweeping into hell to rescue his beloved.
Northern Ireland's health minister has said he's cautiously optimistic about the future of the COVID pandemic as a further easing of restrictions agreed by the executive in Stormont came into effect. From today, rules on self-isolation and table service in pubs and restaurants in Northern Ireland were relaxed. Our Ireland correspondent, Emma Vardy, said more measures are due to be relaxed, but officials want people to remain careful.
There's another significant change coming next week because from Wednesday you'll no longer need vaccine passports to get into pubs and restaurants and cinemas too. Now, as you can imagine, that's all been very much welcomed here by the hospitality industry, but ministers say their message to the public is yes, there are relaxations, but they still want people to take their own precautions.
And there's been no breakthrough in talks between the US and Russia to defuse the threat of war in Ukraine. Both sides have agreed to keep working to ease the tensions. The Ukrainian Foreign Minister has welcomed the prospect of further talks.
On BBC One.
Welcome to a world where a life can last thousands of years. Where there is ingenuity unlike anything we've ever seen. Where beauty knows no bounds. The incredible world of plants.
The Green Planet. With David Attenborough.
Welcome to their world.
Sunday at 7 on BBC One and iPlayer.
Stephen Nolan on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Good evening, welcome along. After accusations of MPs being blackmailed by government whips, Downing Street says it is not investigating allegations at the moment. Some MPs say they do not recognise the behaviour at all.
I've been an MP for 2 years. I've had 3 separate whips and I've never experienced anything that he's mentioned, and I've not actually heard from any other colleagues. I've been in the chamber this morning, been in the tea room after the news has broke, and there's a lot of confused colleagues scratching their head because they haven't experienced it either.
It's all ahead of the publication of Sue Gray's report into the Downing Street parties. That's due next week. Is there anything that report could say that might change your opinion on the Conservative Party leadership? Do you think Boris Johnson is the best person to lead the country? What about the defection of Christian Wakeford to Labour? Should that automatically spark a by-election? Also tonight, COVID restrictions are being relaxed across the UK, some countries faster than others. Wales First Minister Mark Drakeford is accusing the UK government of playing politics rather than following the science.
The UK government has long abandoned any sense that it is following the science. It is a government desperately mired in difficulties of its own making and is forever on the lookout for a headline that will distract people's attention from the awful mess that it finds itself in.
And also tonight we'll hear tributes to a powerhouse of pop who sold more than 100 million albums and did it his way.
I had an offer to study opera and make a lot of money, but it wasn't for me. I'm too rebellious, too crazy. I made the right choices. I have no regrets. Might have saved some of my voice. Doing 200 rock shows a year will take it out of you, but other than that, you're pretty good.
Tributes coming in throughout the day for Meatloaf. Here's how to get in touch tonight.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live. Call free 08085 909 693. Text 85058. Text will be charged at your standard message rate. Plus, see our privacy notice. bbc.co.uk/5 Live. Stephen Nolan on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Well, it's nice to be back after a few weeks off. Shall we get stuck into the politics? We're hearing tonight that the senior Tory MP, William Wright, has set up a meeting with the Met to discuss accusations of blackmail. We'll get the latest with our political correspondent very shortly indeed. Let's start with this issue of the behaviour of the government whips. Did they go too far this week?
It is, of course, the duty of the Government Whip's office to secure the government's business in the House of Commons. However, it is not their function to breach the ministerial code in threatening to withdraw investments from members of Parliament's constituencies which are funded from the public purse. Additionally, reports to me and others of members of staff at number 10 Downing Street, special advisers, government ministers and others encouraging the publication of stories in the press seeking to embarrass those who they suspect of lacking confidence in the Prime Minister is similarly unacceptable. The intimidation of a Member of Parliament is a serious matter. Moreover, the reports of which I am aware would seem to constitute blackmail. As such, it would be my general advice to colleagues to report these matters to the Speaker of the House of Commons and the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police.
Well, that was a statement by the rebel Conservative MP for Hazel Grove, William Wright, at a select committee hearing yesterday. Despite his statement, Downing Street says there will be no investigation and it has not seen any proof of such behaviour. The job has always had a hint of darkness about it. Don't forget Gavin Williamson even capped a tarantula called Cronus on his desk when he was Chief Whip. But is this just part of the rough and tumble of politics, or is this political enforcer image at odds with the modern workplace? Let's speak to the former Conservative Whip, Rob Wilson. Evening to you, Rob.
Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening. And the criminal barrister, former Conservative MP, Jerry Hayes. Hello, Jerry.
Good evening, Stephen.
It's good to talk to you again. Jerry, how does the law distinguish, I wonder, between the rough and tumble of politics and blackmail?
Well, you see, the thing is, it's all very well to talk about the rough and tumble of politics. In my day, there was a lot of rough and tumble, and there were physical fights. I had a physical fight with a whip once. But what we're talking about now is workplace bullying. Now, if you talked about something going on at the BBC where someone was being blackmailed, you are going to lose your show unless you do this, that, and the other. That is regarded as very, very serious indeed. So anyone who says rough and tumble in politics, really dangerous stuff, because they tend to be the very people who say you shouldn't have workplace bullying. I never encountered any whip saying to me, and I was quite rebellious, look, you will lose funds from your constituency unless you do this. This is the big thing. And you've got William Ragg, who is actually a serious figure. He's not a flaky backbencher. He's not a snowflake. He's not someone who's easily going to be bullied. Something has happened, and he's gone all the way to the Metropolitan Police. Now, as I'm sure Rob will tell you, the whips by and large do a pastoral job. Sometimes they talk a bit tough. But all this business of we will put stuff in the newspapers against you, I've never seen that happen before, and I find it troubling. The trouble is things go horribly wrong when you've got a leadership election on, and effectively that's what you've got. It's all about the survival of the leader. Then things get out of hand, people panic, and I think that's what you're seeing now.
Yeah, we don't know what has happened and what's just speculation, Rob, but if any of this has happened, is it a way over the top, Rob Wilson?
Well, first thing is, with the developments tonight, I with the meeting of William Ragg with the Metropolitan Police, I really just hope that he's not wasting police time and taxpayers' money, because without very compelling evidence, these are very much things that are happening in the political sphere, and they don't seem to be, based on the information and evidence available at the moment, criminal matters. So I think that William Ragg just doesn't seem to understand what the role of a whip actually is within the political system. And he certainly doesn't understand the role of a minister either, surprisingly, because to suggest that whips have any power whatsoever to alter or affect constituency investments decisions is absolute and complete nonsense. Now, I don't know whether anybody has made these threats, but I do know that no whip has any power whatsoever to do anything about it. If anybody went to a Secretary of State to reverse a spending decision, they would leave with a flea in their ear, and quite rightly. So I am dubious. I remain to be convinced, and if evidence does come forward, and it's compelling evidence, obviously, it would be outrageous for whips to do these kind of threats. Now, but I'm just saying, in my experience, I've never seen or heard anything like it before.
Stephen, Rob has just made an accusation, accusing, and I hope he realises what he said, because he really ought to retract it on this programme, because you could be responsible for this, of accusing William Ragg of wasting police time, which is tantamount to perverting the course of public justice.
Well, that's
I think
not
you
what
ought to consider. No, you said wasting
Let's
police
hope he's not.
time. No. Well, yeah.
Let's hope he's not.
That's a serious
I'm not making an accusation. I'm just saying let's hope he's not.
Well, all right.
Do you hope he is or he isn't?
I just hope that we have an investigation. He's a serious figure. He's not a snowflake. And if he's gone to the Metropolitan Police, there must be something there. Otherwise, his career falls apart, doesn't it? If he's lied, if he's actually gone on air, and if he's told everybody, and he's made a statement in the way that he did, and none of it is true, and none of it can be backed up.
Well, I don't think we should be getting into the territory that anybody... who are you talking about here? You're talking about Boris Johnson, are you?
Me?
Jerry, or are you talking about William Ragg? Who are you talking about?
Well, I mean, William Ragg has made allegations, hasn't he? And allegations have got to be backed up. Otherwise, his career is going to be destroyed.
Yeah, but what William Ragg
go to the Metropolitan Police.
Yeah, I don't think this needs to be as messy as it sounds. William Ragg is saying allegations have been made to him.
Yeah.
He's passing them on to the police. Surely, if you've got information, that's what you do. You pass it on to the police. It's then for the police to determine whether they investigate or not. If we even look at the definition, Rob Wilson, of blackmail, to demand money or another benefit from someone in return for not revealing compromising or damaging information about them. So if someone did approach a politician and said, look, you either do this and this, or we're feeding information against you to the newspapers, do you think that's acceptable in this day and age?
No, as I said,
any world?
As I've just said, it would be outrageous if whips were behaving in this way, if they were trying to threaten MPs with taxpayers' money, withdrawing funds, or blackmailing them. I mean, that would be outrageous. But as far as I know, and as far as I've ever seen, I have never seen that sort of behaviour and never experienced that sort of behaviour. And that's after 12 years in the Commons, a couple of years as a whip, a number of years as a minister. And you can speak to many MPs who are currently sitting in the House, and they will tell you exactly the same. They've never experienced themselves anything like this, or never heard anything like it. So,
but that's the point.
If somebody comes forward with compelling evidence, of course, it has to be treated with the utmost seriousness. And if they have compelling evidence and they give it to the police, well, we'll see what the police do with it and what the outcome is. But I just hope that we can just get some perspective. I know there's a crisis at Westminster at the moment, and Boris is trying to, fight for his life. But, really, everybody in the Conservative Party needs to keep a sense of perspective, particularly at the moment.
How far can a whip go, Rob? Like, tell me how aggressive you've seen, maybe it was yourself or others, a whip get when they're trying to make sure and enforce the will of the Prime Minister.
The worst I've seen is shouting and swearing and, agricultural language, let's put it that way. I've never seen any physical intimidation. That seems to have happened, a couple of decades ago when I think Jerry was in the House. And certainly there have been some examples with Labour whips intimidating, I think more recently Conor McGinn and I think Paul Marsden back in 2001. So there have been some physical intimidation, which again is absolutely wrong. But if you're a whip, you really don't want to fall out with any member of your flock. You want to be there. Kindness proves a much more effective and potent persuader of MPs to toe the line than any, proverbial boot to the testicles that any whip might be wanting to administer because they're so fed up with the behaviour of one of their flocks. So I would just say that, there are many things you can do to squeeze an MP long before you get to shouting and screaming at them. You have many things that you can do, things like slipping people from votes. People want to go back to their constituencies or want to do other things in the evenings and stuff. Those things are important to MPs. And those, if you're a whip and you can help them to do that, that's one of the acts of kindness that, you store up a bank of goodwill.
Here's our first call of the night. Jeff in Salford, 08085 909 693 is our number. Hello, Jeff.
Hiya, Stephen. Let me just explain something about the law in this country that you might not know about. I spent over 40 years as a shop steward. I have MVQs in employment law. The law in the workplace is if you're accused of something, then you're guilty until you prove your innocence. Unlike in the court of law, where you're innocent until they prove you're guilty. And if a complaint of bullying or harassment is made, and harassment now only has to be one complaint, the same as bullying, then that has to be taken at face value. Now, whether someone's punished for that is another matter, because that would have to be investigated. But it has to be taken completely on face value if someone makes an accusation of bullying or harassment. So if those...
it doesn't have to be believed. It just has to be thoroughly investigated. There's a huge difference.
Yes, but the problem is, will it be investigated? Because from what's been said, it's not going to be investigated. I've heard that said. You've said that on the radio in the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Well, the government aren't intent on investigating it, but William Wright has taken the issue. He set up a meeting with the police, for goodness sake.
Right. Well, Stephen, you're doing it yet again. Yeah, your point of view. Yeah. I'm telling you, I have got MVQs and employment law. I'm telling you what the law is in the country. That's it, full stop. If someone makes a complaint of bullying or harassment, it has to be taken on face value that it's true. Until it's investigated, until it's investigated and an outcome is arrived at. If the outcome is that it was bullying, then people would have to be disciplined for it, So that's all I'm saying.
Stephen?
So if the government are coming round and saying it's not going to be investigated, then that's yet another law that the government are breaking in this country. It has to be investigated.
Thank you for your call. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, could I just say on bullying is taken now very, very seriously at Westminster. And I called out a number of incidents of bullying by the Speaker, John Bercow, and a thorough investigation has been undertaken of that. There's a report due out soon.
Which he would deny, emphatically deny.
Yes, no, I understand that. But he has already spoken about the report coming out next week before it's been published, because obviously he's seen it. And it does sound to me as if he's going to be found fallen short of what the standards are. But we'll wait to see.
Well, you're speculating, aren't you? Hold on a minute.
Oh, this is dangerous territory, Stephen.
I think John Bercow is entitled to the same level
he is.
of protection from me as anybody else. You are preempting well, he might have spoken about it, but he certainly has not admitted any guilt anywhere I've seen. And let's just wait. Well, exactly. Let's wait until we see in the report, Rob, and let's not preempt the report, especially because Mr. Bercow isn't here to defend himself.
Well, you can always get him on. I'm sure he'd be very pleased to come on, but particularly after the report is published. But anyway, it's not just John Bercow. There have been other incidents of bullying that are taken very, very seriously, and they are fully investigated. And so bullying is taken seriously at Westminster, but I mean, I think we're talking about something different here. We're talking about something that is moving into the criminal area. So we're talking about public funds, and we're talking.
Let's find out. Sorry to cut across you 1 second, because our political correspondent Ben Wright can join us now. Ben, good evening.
Evening, Stephen.
Good evening. Glad you're here, because you've spoken to William Wright. What has he told you?
Yeah, so obviously we heard what he said on Thursday at the beginning of his committee session, where he alleged that he had been told some MPs who were potential rebels, who were thought to be moving against Boris Johnson, were effectively threatened with the withholding of public funds if they did go ahead and try and bring down the Prime Minister. He said that these are very concerning reports that, if true, would amount to blackmail, and he made the rather astonishing statement that we all heard. Now, what I'm being told now, this was first reported in the Telegraph, but I've spoken to Mr. Ragg myself, is that he sought a meeting, or had a meeting yesterday, with House of Commons security officials and made it clear he wanted a meeting with the Met. That meeting has now been confirmed for the start of next week. I'm not sure what day, but he's certainly going to sit down with them and talk about his concerns. I asked him if he had any further evidence to present to them. He was very sheepish about that, didn't want to tell me. But clearly he feels there's something here for the Met to investigate. And just the fact that they're having this meeting ups the ante. It shows how serious he is about exposing what he believes has happened. It doesn't, though, I should say, mean the Met will investigate all of this.
Yeah, and the obvious follow-up question, Ben, is why are the people who actually first-hand experienced what is alleged to have happened not going to the Met? William Wright is hearing this third-hand, correct?
Well, when he made his statement, I think he did also encourage MPs, if they had concerns and if this had happened to them, to speak out and to go to the Met themselves. But he obviously feels that he has now broken ranks, and what has been a very unusual thing to do, which is to talk about the secretive world of the whips and gone public. He feels that he's in a position, perhaps also as chair of a select committee in charge of parliamentary administration and public administration, that he's in a good place to go and have that conversation with the Met and see if there are further investigations that they might want to consider.
And in part of those investigations, if indeed any of the investigations are determined by the Met worthy of scrutiny, and that's the next step, whether or not this leads to an investigation, then where you start going, Ben, is what was the line of authority? Who knew what when those instructions or threats were being made? How high up Downing Street does it go? Like, this is the stuff of some type of drama script.
It really is. And I think what's so interesting about this and what has the potential to totally, I mean, look, potentially, I can't stress that enough. We don't know if the Met are going to investigate this, but potentially expose completely the sort of very secretive, murky goings-on of the Whip's world and activities and tactics in Westminster. Now, they have operated like this using a very, diverse armoury of threats, coercion, flattery, promises of preferment and all the rest of it for decades and decades and decades. But it has remained a secretive world. What William Ragg is attempting to do is expose that to scrutiny, including scrutiny by law officers, to see if any of the threats and what he claims has been blackmailing amounts to criminal activity. So it has the potential to blow the whole of the Whip's world open and, shine a light into this.
Given the seriousness of the allegation, why is Downing Street not investigating itself?
Well, one thing I think that has prompted him to go and take this action and ask for the police to be involved is that I'm not sure he was particularly reassured when Downing Street said if there was any evidence that blackmail or threats to withhold public money from MPs' constituencies was provided, then they would investigate it themselves. I think for him, he thinks this is not a matter for Downing Street. This should be a matter for people outside the party political world and outside Number 10, which is why he's gone to the Met.
My goodness, politics is an exciting time at the moment. When do we expect Sue Gray's report to publish?
We don't have an exact date. There are rumours all the time. It's largely expected that it will be sometime next week. Could be the middle of the next week. Could be the middle of next week. We still think she has people to interview, and as we know, certainly at the beginning of this week, her ever-expanding portfolio of parties and events to investigate has made this a difficult job for her. But I think the feeling in Westminster is that she will be cracking on with this, and we could get it very soon. My sense too is that Tory party managers, the whips, members of Boris Johnson's team in Number 10 are working obviously very hard at the moment to try and shore up his position and to reduce the chances of a big backlash and a rebellion from Tory MPs once this is actually published, because lots of them have been holding fire, not revealing to journalists like me what they're going to do, what they're thinking, until they actually see what Sue Gray has concluded.
OK, Ben, thank you very much indeed. We've got to go to the news soon. Jerry Hayes, do you think Boris Johnson is cornered to such an extent that he cannot get out of any of this?
No, he can't get out of any of this. I don't mean the rag stories, because I don't think for one moment that he would have known anyway. It's a culture problem. Never mind the various people who've accused him of lying, never mind the various incompetencies, never mind moving the troops to the top of the hill and down again. It's the parties. One rule for us, another rule for them, and then it's the cover-up, and it's always the cover-up that gets him. I don't think for one moment he's going to be there for more than 2 or 3 weeks. And that seems to be the view of and you can probably speak to Ben privately about this, about the lobby and the various ministers and MPs I've spoken to. That is the view. This is not something he can survive.
2 or 3 weeks, Rob Wilson. Do you concur with that?
I think the Prime Minister is in considerable trouble. There's no question about that. And I think we are at a point where it's a toss of a coin whether he survives or not. I don't think there's any question of that. I think that Boris does have certain characteristics that could help him to get out of this. and he could do certain things to mollify some of the things that the parliamentary party think are going wrong. And if he had deployed those several weeks ago, or several months ago even, I would feel much more confident about his chances of survival. But, I concur with Jerry. He's absolutely right on this, that this is a very dangerous time, and that's why Parliament and the struggle for the most powerful position in the country is causing so many problems between colleagues.
I mean, I lived through the Thatcher. Oh, sorry, Stephen. Thank you.
No, go ahead, Jerry. Go ahead. You can finish your point. Then we'll go to the news.
I was just going to say that I lived through all the Thatcher stuff, and it was tricky. I mean, it was really tricky. But there were never any threats. Now, this is the difference. It's the culture problem. There's a terrible culture at number 10, and it's been seeping through. At the end of the day, whatever you thought of her, Margaret Thatcher stuck by her principles. The trouble with Boris Johnson is that he has no shame, he has no principle, and he has no judgment. And what will kill him will be the polls. Same thing that killed Margaret Thatcher, the opinion polls, and they're plummeting. And that's why he'll go. People want a winner, not a loser. They factored in all his faults, all his deceptions, all his difficulties, because they thought, we will keep our jobs. But they know now with the opinion polls that they can't. And that will be the end of him, I'm afraid.
Jerry Hayes, Rob Wilson, thank you very much indeed. Let's get the news at 10:34.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
With the 5 Live News, I'm Sean DaCosta. A Metropolitan Police detective has been sentenced to 3 years in jail for secretly filming models as they undressed. Neil Corbell, who's 40, admitted 19 counts of voyeurism. He had planted cameras in tissue boxes, phone chargers and alarm clocks in hotel rooms and flats. The incidents happened in London, Manchester and Brighton. Tributes have been paid to the singer and actor Meat Loaf, who died today, aged 74. Alice Cooper described him as one of the greatest voices in rock and roll. At least 70 people have been killed by a Saudi-led airstrike on a prison in Yemen. A separate strike caused a nationwide internet blackout after hitting a communications building controlled by Iranian-backed rebels. Restrictions in Northern Ireland have been relaxed, meaning more people can meet indoors and pub customers can once again order drinks at the bar. The self-isolation requirement for people who catch COVID has also been cut from 7 days to 5. Moving on to sport, Norwich are out of the bottom 3 after an emphatic 3-0 win at Watford. There was an acrobatic finish for the Canaries first from Josh Sargent, who scored 2, before Watford's Kucka scored an own goal to round off the scoring.
Byron gets it into the penalty area. Ida turns it into the middle. It's an own goal, and Norwich are 3-0 up. Norwich are 3-0 up. The ball deflected in off Kucka, and what a miserable introduction to the game for him.
Teenager Alex Lowry scored on his debut as Rangers beat Stirling Albion 4-0 in the Scottish Cup 4th round. There were also goals for James Tavernier, Fashion Sakala and Cedric Hitton. Harlequins produced yet another late comeback as they beat Castra 36-33 in the European Champions Cup. There was a long delay as Alex Strombrandt's last-minute try was checked.
And says try! Harlequins have won it! The captain with a try in the last second to make it a hat-trick.
England are currently trailing 2-0 in the Women's Ashes. They'll be looking to rectify that by beating Australia in the second T20 match tomorrow. Here's England's Amy Jones.
We see ourselves as the top 2 teams in the world, and you obviously expect a big battle. There's definitely no fear. There's obviously a lot of respect for them as players. They're world champions T20, so they're a great side, and we know we have to be at our best to beat them.
That starts at about 3:10 a.m. There'll be Test match special coverage on Sports Extra. England's men begin their 5-match T20 series against West Indies tomorrow as well. Ben Stokes, Joss Buttler, Johnny Bairstow, David Milan, Chris Wokes and Mark Wood are all unavailable, having played at the Ashes, while Sam and Tom Curran are both missing through injury. In golf, play was suspended early on day 2 of the HSBC Championship due to fading light. Scotland's Scott Jamieson holds the lead in Abu Dhabi on 7 under par. England's James Morrison, who's a shot behind, will have to play the final few holes of his round tomorrow morning. Jamieson says he's grateful that he was able to finish his round.
We weren't expecting to finish. The front nine was really slow, but then I guess you maybe get a few people that know they're not going to play the weekend, so they're not taking as long on the homeward stretch. So it'll make my morning much more relaxing than coming up, get warming up just to maybe finish, play one hole, and then given my position, I would have had quite a long wait.
And there's just one British player left in the singles at the Australian Open. Dan Evans plays Canadian 9th seed Felix Auger-Aliassime in round 3 tomorrow at around 6 a.m. There'll be commentary of that online on the BBC Sounds app or on Sports Extra. That's the latest news and sport on 5 Live.